Shaya'a and Quranic studies. And since he gained his PhD in 2010, he has taught more than 25 different subjects at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. He was a lecturer of Quranic studies, faculties Quranics and Sunnah study at USIM in 2011. And he is a political analyst and translator, embassy of State of Qatar, Malaysia from 2009-2011. And he is a teacher of Arabic language, International Modern Arab School, Malaysia, IMAS, in 2008. And he's a teacher of Arabic language. IMAS, and he's a teacher of Arabic study, Islamic study and Arabic language, International Islamic School, Malaysia, from 2002-2007. And he's a teacher of Islamic study Arabic. Yes, in the Great Islamic College, IIIT Malaysia, 2008. 1999-2001. Currently, he's a coordinator of 2 courses, supervisor of many masters and PhD students, and a member of several committees at the department level. Prior to this, he was the head of Day 1 of Fiqh Research and Consultancy, Department of Fiqh and Usul al-Fiqh. And also he's head of Department of Student Activities, International Modern Arab School, Malaysia, IMAS 2008. And he's also head of Department of Islamic Real Knowledge, International Islamic School, Malaysia, from 2006-2007. And during which he's entered of and subsequently was appointed as a coordinator of the first Quran memorization competition among local and international Islamic school in Malaysia in 2005, and a coordinator of first Tilawah competition in 2006. And thank you, Doctor, for your coming to our program. Today, inshallah, he will teach us on Siyasah Syariah. فليتفضل مذكورة دكتور.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة أفضلها والتسليم أتمه على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين محمد بن عبد الله البشير النذير السراج المنير المبعوث رحمة للعالمين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Thank you very much, sister, for your introduction. My appreciation to IIIT for organizing these short courses online, and hopefully, inshallah, one day we'll meet face to face to share ideas, to gain knowledge from you as well, because I know you are from different backgrounds. But unfortunately, this time it is conducted only online. So as you see here, my course will be, inshallah, about Qadaya Fiqhiyyah Mu'asirah, contemporary juristic issues. So first and foremost, when talking about contemporary issues, we are not dealing with issues that already confirmed, already discussed. There is no way to discuss, for instance, whether Zuhur is 4 rak'ah or 5 rak'ah. It is not called contemporary issue. So we'll be dealing with issues that are contemporary in nature, new events, new incidents, or perhaps old, but in a new form. So that's why we call it contemporary juristic issues. So here we are dealing with a variety of issues. Can you see the slides?
Yes, doctor. But it can if you open biggest the presentation slide that one.
Did it change it now?
Ya mungkin.
Is it changing?
Not yet, not yet.
Not yet.
The down one, doctors. You open what they call?
Is it changing now or not?
It's okay, doctor. You can proceed.
Okay. So here we are dealing with the issues that are new in nature. For instance, we will deal with women's issues in Malaysia, in the Islamic world, whether women had the right to work or not, to participate actively in politics or not, whether the voice of a woman is awra, so that she would remain at home, or she is eligible to work and to contribute in the society. Abortion is another topic. Is it allowed in Islam or not? If it is allowed, when and how? Abortion, adoption, plastic surgery, euthanasia or euthanasia, and so on and so forth. So this course contained lots of issues. So it is designed to discuss some issues faced by modern Muslim societies in their daily life or everyday life, by explaining Islamic perspective on those issues and how Muslims should respond to them. If you say there is no Islamic answer, or Muslims have no answer to these issues, so in a way or another, you are saying that Islam is irrelevant. Fiqh stopped where the Khulafa, the Imam, the ulama died. After Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, we have no ijtihad, no scholars, no new events, no new issues. So if we claim Islam is a comprehensive way of life that accommodates new events, new issues, propose remedies, solutions to new circumstances, new situations, we have to prove it in reality. So the course concentrates on the characteristics of the modern world, or the features of modern life, and the roles of fiqh and Muslim jurists, especially the Islamic fiqh councils, in overcoming these modern issues. So there are some selected issues, as I mentioned now, that various dimensions are discussed, or various dimensions ranging from environmental laws, position of Muslim women in society, or in social and political life, and medical as well as economic issues. So these are the topics that we are going, inshallah, to cover. Now, the learning outcome. What are we going to learn in this course? We will revise some of the jurist views to answer specific contemporary issues in the Muslim world. Number two, also to revise customs, based Sharia rulings due to changes in time, place, and individuals. Last but not least, we have to display competence when doing research on these contemporary issues. No matter where you are, no matter in which country you live, or what is the nature of your job, when you take this course, inshallah, you will have at least some ideas, some basic ideas on how Islam or how Sharia or how Fiqh deals with these contemporary issues, so that inshallah you will have answers or at least ideas for yourself. Whether you are a man or woman, you need to know basic ideas on these contemporary issues. Okay. Now, you know the meaning of fiqh. You have already learned by many previous scholars and lecturers. Fiqh is the knowledge of religious practical ruling deduced from the detailed sources. This is given by Imam Shafi'i. So we are not dealing with merely political issues or economic issues or social issues, environmental issues. We are talking about religious practical rulings. Though they are related to politics, to economic issues, to family affairs, educational system, environmental issues, we are dealing with them from fiqh perspective. So it's about the knowledge of the rulings of Sharia as derived from Quran and Sunnah. Or like Imam Abu Zuhra or Muhammad Abu Zuhra said, it is the knowledge of the Sharia rulings which are related to actions from its detailed sources. Now, based on this definition of fiqh, as you have also learned, or most of us are familiar with the categories of al-fiqh. Fiqh is not only restricted to ibadat, though it is the most important category of fiqh. Fiqh al-ibadat, related to worship, how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is called ibadah. So how to perform your ibadah is called fiqh al-ibadat. So fiqh is not only about ibadat. Another category is fiqh al-muamalat, related to transactions, how to sell, how to buy. What are the haram items that you are not allowed to sell in Islam, for instance? The types of business that you are prohibited to engage in. Another category is fiqh al-ahwal al-shakhsiyah. This is related to family matters, marriage, divorce, inheritance. So when we deal, inshallah, in this course with plastic surgery, family planning, abortion, for instance, these are related to fiqh al-usra or fiqh al-ahwal al-shakhsiyah. Another category is fiqh al-maqasid. So the contemporary fiqh issues or contemporary juristic issues mostly fall into this category. Fiqh al-maqasid, fiqh al-awlawiyat, fiqh al-sunan, fiqh al-ma'alat, fiqh al-taysir, fiqh al-aqalliyat. So when you have minorities in your countries, how do you deal with them? Should you give them the upper hand? Should they be superior to you or inferior or none? They just be normal citizens, same like anyone else. So it is called fiqh al-aqalliyat. So Maqasid al-Sharia, as some of the lecturers inshallah will be dealing with, is extremely important for us in this contemporary world. So if we are dealing with contemporary juristic issues, we are dealing with three terms or three words: contemporary, juristic, issues. So if they are not contemporary, if they are not relevant to us, they should not be studied in this course. Issues that are already fixed. How to pray Zuhr, when to pray Zuhr. If you are traveling, for instance, you have Jama' and Qasr, you shorten it, you combine Zuhr and Asr together. These are already explicitly or implicitly explained in Quran and Sunnah. Many books have been published. So perhaps when talking about contemporary issues, we might talk about or deal with issues like if you are traveling by aeroplane. So on the air, how do you pray? Should you wait until you come down? Okay, after landing, you pray, or while you are sitting on your seat on the sky while traveling, you perform salah. So these are issues related to salah, to ibadat. So we are not dealing with the salah itself that is already confirmed, permanently confirmed. Will not be changed until the day of judgment. But how to pray, how to perform, this is a contemporary issue. Now, when talking about juristic, we are not talking about any issues that have no relationship to fiqh. So we have to focus on juristic issues. Now, when you say issues, the last one, issues means it is a problem or a problematic issue that you need to have an answer. You have to explain to the people. So if it is not an issue, it is not going to be part of our discussion in this course. So again and again, contemporary juristic issues. Issues that are related to sciences are not part of our discussion. Okay? If this is clear, we go to the next. The nature of our contemporary juristic issues. As I have just said, it is not only about ibadat, it is also about muamalat. And perhaps Dr. Akhtarzaite will tackle an issue that related to finance or transactions or masarif Maliyyah. So it is part of our discussion, inshallah, that is fiqhul muamalat, but not in details, because that is left for another lecturer. But my part will be just to give you a general idea, overall ideas on how fiqhul muamalat is extremely important for us to give answers to these new circumstances and situations in our contemporary world. The third one is crime and punishment, al-uquba wal-jarima. And the fourth one is political issues. The fifth one, food and drinks. And many other issues that are under other issues. So the focus will be on these categories of fiqh. Now, what are the types of issues that we are discussing? Number one is new incidents happen for the first time. We don't find in our previous scholars, we don't have in our books, issues related to organ transplantation or organ donation, electronic notes. These are new issues. You can't find them in our books written by fuqaha, because these are the results of this contemporary world. Plastic surgery, yes, they might talk about how if you got injured, but in details, we don't have them in our books. So we say these are new incidents happening nowadays or happen for the first time. So you have to have answers, you have to have remedies and propose solutions for these problems. The second type is incidents or incident that change their rulings. To change, okay, means from time to time, from tradition to tradition, from place to place, we have different issues. So selling online is not a new issue, but the way how we deal with it is new. Because last time scholar used to say, you have to catch it, you have to hold it, you have to receive items so that transaction will be made. When you buy and sell, you have to have ijab and qabul. Accept, okay? After you pay, you take the items, the product. If you don't have them, then this is called now change in practice. Okay? So when you are dealing with these issues, inshallah, you'll be aware of how Sharia is so relevant. You can't say today buying by installment is not allowed in Islam, it's haram. It is allowed. But what are the dawabit? What are the rulings? To what extent they are opened? You buy and sell everything? How if you are cheated? So these are also related to Muamalat. Inshallah will be discussed by some other lecturers. So what we want in this course is to have a civilizational jurisprudence, a civilizational fiqh for the ummah to have a presence in reality, to remain active in the international arena. So we are not absent. We are here with you. We are part of the society. As Muslims, we contribute ideas. We give answers to these new events and new incidents. Otherwise, if we merely depend on what Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal have said, we are saying in a way or another, Islam is not a civilized religion. It does not cope with the society. It doesn't contribute anything. It does not produce anything, repeating itself. Wallahu alam, wallahu alam, wallahu alam. We have no Quranic ideas. We have no Quranic verses talking about this issue. We have no prophetic, okay, traditions. No ayah, no hadith. This is not the solution. The solution is to dive into the Quranic verses and the prophetic traditions to find answers to these new problems. So we call it civilizational jurisprudence. Okay? Because this contemporary world is very complicated. Because of the nature of this contemporary world, you should not remain silent to say there is no answer from the Islamic perspective. Or you repeat the same what the scholars have said. You have to find solutions based on your own understanding of the societies. So when dealing, for instance, with sale of human organs or human organ donation, plastic surgery, abortion, adoption, copyrights on inventions and publications, we have to have answers from the Sharia perspective. Credit cards from Sharia perspective, DNA, genetic engineering, artificial intelligence. So these are all new issues. If you have no answer to them, when you are asked by anyone, Muslims, non-Muslims, as I have just said, needless to repeat it, you are claiming that Islam is irrelevant. So if you want Islam to be relevant, you have to have solutions to these problems that are faced by humanity nowadays. So let us start with one of the issues that we are going to discuss in this course, family planning. That is birth control. How to control your, what you call family. You wanna, for instance, have only 2 children. So you want to stop because your job is not enough. Your salary is not enough for you. The earning that you are having is not enough, is not sufficient for you to sustain the family, to maintain the family. So what is Islamic perspective? Now, people are talking about family planning, international conferences here and there, by the United Nations, by some organizations. So here we talk about how to use birth control methods to choose the number and timing of children born into a family. So 3 items are discussed here. To limit the number of children to a very small number. To distance the occurrence of pregnancy for a specific period of time. And number 3, to eliminate the possibility of having children. So Islamically speaking, are we allowed to permanently eliminate the possibility of having children? Is it our right to stop? Is it our right to kill our children? Is it allowed to have abortion for no valid reason? For no for no rightful justification? You might distance the gap, the occurrence of pregnancy. But 2 years of suckling period is the recommended period. If you can make it, if the mothers can make it, 2 years gap is the most recommended period. 1.5 year, 1 year. But to have the distance also is allowed. It's up to you. Maybe the health of the mother is not good. So you don't want to have a child that is going to be sick and also will make the mother suffering a lot. So you might distance the gap, the occurrence of pregnancy, no problem. But to limit the number of children is not your right, unless there is a valid justification. So these are issues pertaining the family planning concept. So what Islam says? Islam says it is not your right to stop pregnancy unless there is a valid reason. One of them is not because you have not enough money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sustains your child the way he sustains you and sustains everybody. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُمْ خَشْيَةَ إِمْلَاقٍ. In another ayah, min imlaqin. Do not kill your baby because of fear of poverty or because of poverty. Now you are poor, so you cannot sustain him, so you kill your child. Haram. Killing a child might be after birth or while it's still in the womb. So it is not your right to kill a baby. Also, it is not your right to stop having a child. Otherwise, human race will not continue. Because it is Rasulullah's sunnah to have families, to have children, offspring. And alayhi salatu wasalam will be proud of us in the day of resurrection. We'll outnumber. See, mashallah, my ummah, large in terms of population. Also, marriage is the nature of human being. So when you marry, one of the objectives of marriage is to have children. So if I don't want to have children, you don't have, she doesn't want, he doesn't want, we all don't want. So here is a problem against Maqasid al-Sharia, the continuation of human race. So to limit the number is not allowed in Islam unless there is a valid reason. That is health concern, health issue. Your issue, your health issue, or the child himself. To distance, as I just said, is allowed. To eliminate is not allowed. If you are following me, I think now I open the floor for Q&A session based on what I have just discussed with you. Do you have any question to raise? Would you like to ask any question?
Yes, Doctor. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. And we have about 7 minutes. So
only 7 minutes. Ya Allah. Okay.
Yeah, because we have until 45, doctor.
Okay.
45. So we have about 7 minutes like that. Yeah, there is a brother Hakim came kalau. Okay. You can open mic.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamualaikum wabarakatuh.
My name is Hakim Kolawole.
Ahlan wa
Can you
sahlan.
hear me?
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you
no,
hear me,
yeah.
Doctor?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much for the very, very insightful lecture. Doctor, a situation where a couple, they already have like 5, 6 children, and the wife is maybe like 48, 49 years. Can they stop giving birth, considering the fact that the womb of the wife is weak? The doctors have said her womb is very, very weak, and she should be careful of carrying another pregnancy. In that wise, can they stop having children? They already have 6 children, for example.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brother Hakim. Yes, I have just mentioned, if there is a valid reason and justification, yes, maybe an age factor because she is very old, so it might endanger her life. So if a trusted doctor or a trustworthy person advise the wife or the mother to stop giving birth anymore, we have to take this into consideration because she's already old, or maybe the age does not allow her to give more birth or more babies or to give birth. So we have to understand the situation. It is not because it is haram to have more children. No, it is not because it is haram to have babies when you are 48 or 49. It depends. You might be 50 and still healthy. You might be 24, 25, but you are not in good condition, not in good health. No, so it depends.
Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes? Anyone else?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu wa barakatuh.
This is Mohamed Tayyib from Pakistan. Shukran ala muhadaratikum. I just want to make something clear about the same problem. Like if a woman has cesarean, so and she has like 4 or 5 babies or 4 babies, can she is allowed to be stopped?
Thank you. I think almost the same question. So it depends on the situation of a particular woman. In most of the countries, after the 4th time, doctors will advise her not to give birth anymore. In some other countries, they will say up to 5, 6. But again and again, it is based on the maslahah, the interest of both parties, the husband, the wife, besides the entire family. So if she is not in good health, especially if she has cesarean delivery, not normal delivery, it is not recommended for her to have more than what she has already given. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better and knows best. Who knows? Sometimes, doctors will say, you are in a very critical situation. If you not abort this baby, you will be in danger. Sometimes doctors will say your child will suffer Down syndrome. He will be sick for entire life. But subhanallah, later on, nothing happened. Healthy baby, beautiful baby, a sound baby, subhanallah. So we take into consideration the advice given by doctors because these people are specialized. They should be trusted. But ultimately, we depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows better. And Allah knows the best. Shukran. Okay. Any more before we proceed? Because we have a few minutes left.
Yes. Just now I opened my two brother. Which brother? If any one of you want to ask one more question, then we allow it, the last question here. If you want, then you can raise your hand. Yes, brother SK. Okay, you can open mic.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jazakallah khaira, Doctor. My question is also related to the same thing. I talk about the intent of the doctors in the developing countries. They are very much, recommending not to give birth. So they are using cesarean to their convenience. Also, the government of some part supporting to their intents. So what is your answer for that?
Okay, thank you. You know, this problem, sometimes the ladies themselves, they don't want to have normal delivery because of the pain they have encountered. They don't want to suffer, so they want to relieve themselves. So they are the one who sometimes suggest to have cesarean delivery. And sometimes the doctors, because they are rushing, hasten, many patients are waiting, so just finish. So it could be because of the doctors, and sometimes it could be because of the women themselves. And in some countries, it is made intentionally. They don't want Muslims to be more and more. So if it is a policy, as we'll discuss next week, inshallah, is not allowed in Islam. If you make it a policy to number the birth in a Muslim country imposed by the government on the people, is not allowed in Islam. So it should be up to the families to decide to the best of their abilities. They try, inshallah, to have normal delivery, but because of a reason or another, they opt for cesarean is allowed. The most important thing is to have discussions, not to be imposed or dictated on the people by force. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
I will share with you, inshallah, the slides. Maybe because of the technical error, I will share with you, inshallah, everything. Don't worry, inshallah.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. There's many more questions, but then our time has limited, inshallah. If any question, you can write in the chat box. Inshallah, the next class, Doctor will answer, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So thank you, Doctor, for your session today. MashaAllah, it's the wonderful session. And we hope that all our participants will benefit from that knowledge, inshallah. And may Allah bless you and grant you Jannah. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, sister. Barakallah fiqh. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome, Doctor. And Dr. Akhtarzaite is here.
Yeah, she was here just now.
Yeah, I'm here. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. Tafadhali.
Yeah. Okay. This is the second lecture for us today. Inshallah, we will meet with Dr. Akhtarzaite bin Abdul Aziz. Okay, before we begin with her, I'm willing to introduce her a little bit. Dr. Akhtarzaite is an assistant professor in Ahas Kuliah of Islamic Real Knowledge and Human Science, IIIM in Malaysia. Dr. graduated her bachelor in International Islamic University, Malaysia, in Sharia, or we call it Islamic law. And also her graduated her master also in the same universities in Department Fiqh and Usul al-Fiqh. And also her graduated her PhD on the same universities in Islamic International Islamic University Malaysia, and the same department with masters is graduated in Fiqh and Usul al-Fiqh, and currently her is lecturers in IIIM, and he taught many several subjects in IIIM. And thank you for her. Today she will present for us in banking and financial market. فليتفضل مذكورة, Doctor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thank you very much for sister moderator and for the organizer IIIT for giving me this opportunity to talk to the world today. Alhamdulillah. I'm very proud that we have a good number of participants. Inshallah, Allah will grace us with His blessing for, staying up in the morning of Saturday. I understand that some of you in very early morning. Alhamdulillah, may Allah put this as one of our good deeds, inshallah, to be rewarded in life and in the hereafter, inshallah. My topic. Can I share screen now? Seems that I cannot.
Yes, sure. Yes, sure.
Okay. Window. Can you see my screen?
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Can you? Yeah.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. For my topic is actually maybe can be an example of what Dr. Abdulhamid said just now about the contemporary juristic issues and banking and financial markets within the modern financial system is considered as one of the most important sector in terms of the contemporary issues, whereby being an Muamalat matters, the nature it is very dynamic and always change from time to time. So I will talk about banking and financial markets. It is actually a big topic and it composed of two segments basically, each actually covering many issues, but we of course will be selecting most important issues from banking firstly, and secondly from the financial markets. So I put here the outlines for the presentation for the course for 6 weeks. So I think we should have a plan for all the 6 weeks so that we will be guided what we'll be talking this week, and next week will be what will be the next topic for next week, and so on and so forth. So for the first week today, I will be giving only the introduction to banking and financial market and functions of Islamic banking. Focus the first part first, the banking system, and as well as underlying principles. So underlying principles, of course, we will be touching generally on some of the most important principles which govern the Islamic banking systems in our modern days. So that will be the first week. The second week, next week, inshallah, we will focus on some of the deposit, because for banking system, basically they have two types of products, right? So bank as the financial intermediary, they will receive funds from the depositors. So we put the money in the bank, we open accounts. So we put the money with the bank will pay interest, right? So that is what happening in banking system. So that is the first part. So we'll discuss about Islamic deposits. So what is actually the nature of Islamic deposits? What are the contract used, as well as investment account? So when we talk about investment accounts, of course, the depositors or the one who put the money or the investors, they are looking forward to having the profit or the return for their investment. So what are the suitable contract used actually for the Islamic deposits and investment accounts? That will be our focus for the next week. For the third week, after the bank have the fund with them, of course, one of the most important source of fund for the bank, being whether it is conventional bank or Islamic bank, are the deposits and investment accounts. So after they have mobilized the fund, the bank will then use the fund for their financing.
Doctor?
Yeah.
Sorry to disturb because the slide is not moving.
So what should I do? Still the first.
Yeah, now I'm moving the slide, and then can doctor put it as a slideshow?
Okay. I think this is the second one. You are seeing the week 1, week 2.
Yes. Now. Sorry.
Okay, so we have finished with this. Week 3, Islamic financing product, where the bank will give the financing. So those people, those companies who need money, they will go to the bank for financing, right? So basically, the conventional bank will give the loan, right? So with interest, of course. So as we know that that is not permissible in Islam. So we need the specified products in order to cater for this, but whereby the bank will give the financing to the units who need the financing. Is it moving, sister? Now we're in week 4.
Not moving, doctor.
So I think I need to.
Slides. If open slide so cannot.
Hold on. I'm actually on slideshow.
Doctor, it's like this. If the cannot, if open slideshow, sometimes it's not moving. So back to the normal. I think like that.
I will share inshallah later on. So now you are seeing my week 4.
Yes, week 4, 5, and 6.
I just let it be without slideshow, right? Because of this problem. I know it is smaller, but inshallah it's okay. Week 4, we will focus that to the next, to the second part of the short course, which is the financial markets, right? So we will start first with the introduction to financial markets. What are the types and functions of these particular markets? And we will be focusing on the capital markets actually, because financial markets are divided into few segments, but we've been focused on capital market due to its importance, and also the underlying principles, which are actually more or less the same with the banking. So week 5, we choose some products from Islamic equity market, right? Islamic equity market. And lastly, we take another example from the capital market, which is Islamic debt market or sukuk. So of course, we will have a brief introduction on all these items, so that at least, because within this short course, at least we have a basic idea of what it is and how fiqh or how Islam look into these products and how we offer alternatives, which is Sharia compliant. Just to give a big picture, right? So Islamic financial services or Islamic financial systems, so it is actually, because of due to the mainstream system, we follow the same system, which is it is conventional in nature, Western in nature, whereby in each of the state we have these 3 components mainly, right? So that the flow of the fund from those investors to the one who need the fund will be flow systematically, right? Systematically within certain institutions. So basically, we have 3 segments of the market, whether it is conventional or Islamic. So we have Islamic also, we follow the same pattern. We have the Islamic banking to provide an alternative to the conventional banking, of course, which provide the deposit and financing, as we said just now. Secondly, we have the Islamic financial market. Mostly here we have is actually capital market. Right? Due to the importance, we focus on the capital market, not money market. So we will discuss when we come to the this segment. We will discuss in detail when we talk about the types and functions. We will come to that. But for now, we understand that Islamic capital market is actually another segment, right, whereby the fund will be provided directly. So Islamic banking, there are some intermediary between those who need the fund, Islamic bank in the middle, and those who want to invest their fund. So Islamic is the indirect, because it has some banking is an indirect funding, because the banking is in the middle as the financial intermediary. Whereas under the Islamic financial capital market, it is considered as direct market. Why? Because those who need the fund will go directly to market, and we directly interact with the one who provide the fund. Right? So they have ranges of products from this segment. We have equity that we will discuss as an example, mainly the shares, this as home, the shares. We will take as an example this one in week 5, inshallah. And also sukuk. Sukuk also very important for as one of the funding mechanism in order to finance the projects for particularly. So sukuk also we will discuss in our last and final week, inshallah. There are also some other products under this, for example, funds and unit trusts. This is also, I think, very popular nowadays. We have also REITs, real estate investment trusts, as the Islamic one. IIITs, we have the IIITs for Islamic. This is particularly investment in the real estates, derivatives for the particularly for hedging purposes for Islamic, not for speculations. And we have also private equity and venture capital. This is also a growing market, right? So this is under Islamic financial capital market. Lastly, we have the takaful. So for the conventional counterpart, they have the insurance. Right? Takaful is the alternative for Islamic insurance, providing the takaful and re-takaful. So these three markets, main markets, the big picture of it, even though we have a clear demarcation between these three, they are actually interacting in one particular market. For example, Islamic banking, they will need to interact with the products in the equity. The bank might also invest their funds, some of their fund in the sukuk, for instance, right? And those Islamic financial markets products also, they need the Islamic banking products, for example, for the investment and to put some of their funds in the bank. Same thing also, they need takaful, for instance, to protect some of their assets, for instance, right? So all these three, they are interacting, so that if we in a country, in a market, if they have a strong these three markets strongly established and robustly established by the government, then the flow of fund in order to finance the Islamic, the economic activity of the country will be smoothly run. And when we talk about Islamic banking and Islamic system, of course, we will do this in Islamic manner, which is Sharia compliance manner. This is what we will talk about, how Islam propose and Islam provide actually the way how we do this system in accordance with Islamic principles. So of course, when we talk about Islamic banking, now we understand first what is banking and finance, because this is actually originated in the West, right? Banking system started in the medieval age in the Western country, particularly I think it started in Italy and spread in the Europe, then to the whole world, and it also entered the Islamic countries due to the colonization era. So it started to enter Egypt, started to enter all the countries, including Malaysia, right? And also African countries. I think we have the history how the banking conventionally entered the Islamic states. So basically, it is a financial intermediary. The key word is financial intermediary. Bank provide the financial intermediation between those people or those company or those group who need the fund, right? So we call it deficit unit, and the one who provide the fund, we call them the surplus unit, right? So here, banking is to facilitate intermediation between savers and investors. Investors use funds to invest in productive businesses. Of course, investors, when they invest, they look forward to have the return, add to the wealth of the economy. And with their fund, the economic activities can be funded, right? So bank ensure flow of fund, right? Ensure flow of fund from surplus unit and the one who have excess money, right? Whether they are individuals, wealthy individuals, companies, or even government, and to the deficit unit, the one who need the fund, whether for household use or whether for the business firms and government use for their economic activities. Say, for example, a company need a fund for their working capital, for instance. So where they go to get their fund, they will go to the bank. So the bank will mobilize fund. They take the fund from the surplus unit through deposit product, as I said just now. So they have ranges of deposits product. People will open accounts with the bank with different purposes. We too will focus on that. And then channel that fund to the deficit unit through financing products. So for the, therefore, they have basically two main functions, right? Two main functions. So this is in a simplified way. But basically, they have the function of mobilizing fund from the surplus unit and then channel them to the deficit unit, those who need the fund for different purposes. So of course, the bank in the middle, when they take the fund, they will pay interest, right? And when they give the fund to the one who need the fund for the financing, for the financing, they will charge the interest. So they get the profit, or they get the interest from the fund that they give to those parties who need the fund. So this is the only to visualize, right? The one that we discussed just now. The bank will take deposits from the bank in the middle, take deposits in the forms of the accounts, whether they are deposits or investment accounts. Then the bank will give financing to the one who need the financing. All right. So that is actually the function. As we said, that it started in a very early stage in the Western. They are all already developed, right? So when the system enter and establish in Muslim countries, right? So the Muslims started to talk about this issue, right? So because what they are facing, what they are using, what they are introduced by the colonizers in their states is actually against Islam, right? Because clearly, mainly banking products, be in the deposits or the financing, clearly involve riba. So as we know that riba is one of the most severe prohibition in Islam. And the Prophet said that the most lenient sin for riba, to practice riba, is like the one who do zina with his own mother, very severe. And Allah also declare war, all right, in the Quran for those who practice riba, right? So so therefore, riba, unlike other prohibitions, Allah has provided in the Quran in the clear ayah with stern and serious punishment, which shows that Allah dislikes this practice, right? Not only in Islam, in the previous revolutions also, for the Yahuds, for the Nasara, they are also prohibited from practicing riba, as we know. Okay, so therefore, the ulama at that time, they started to think about what is the solution for this. We cannot proceed with this. So this is one of the mustajidat, one of the contemporary juristic issues, whereby the Muslim, their attitude is that we need to provide our own solution to this. So then the idea or the solution, the suggestion for the establishment of Islamic banking and finance, right? So many discussion at that time, why we should follow the same system, why should we don't have our own system. Of course, that will be the discussion during that time, but the reality is that the mainstream is the mainstream, right? So that is the system worldwide established. So we at the beginning, Islamic banking finance proposed to provide an alternative. We do the same thing, but Islamic way. Islamization of knowledge, Islamization of the banking practices during that time. Modesty started with that particular idea, right? But of course now it has been developed. The idea is not to just imitate from others, but to come out from our own system which can cater for the economic needs of the people. But historically, it begins modestly as to provide an alternative for the conventional banking based on riba during that time. So it started worldwide. Some efforts done in order to come up with that. the firstly recorded in the history, the Tajribah Mit Ghamar, an institution in Egypt, to provide a banking system based on Islamic principles. In Malaysia, we have Tabung Haji in 1963. It's not very long history. It's quite new, right? Tabung Haji is not a bank, but it provides the a venue for the Muslims to invest their money while they are save their money to perform Hajj. So that's what happening in Malaysia. But later on, it has been developed, and an Islamic Development Bank has been established in 1975. In Malaysia, we have the first Islamic bank in 1983. Right, so all over the world, the Islamic bank has been developed. Right, now we have already almost 50 years of Islamic banking finance development. So I put here, then what is actually Islamic banking, right? So I take here two definition. Islamic Banking Act in Malaysia 1983. So actually this act has been repealed and replaced by another act, which is Islamic Financial Services Act 2013. But IFSA doesn't have specific definition like this. So I just take this definition, although this act itself has been repealed, I just take the definition, just to understand what people understand by Islamic finance, Islamic banking, right? So it defines Islamic bank. Islamic banking business means banking business whose aims and operations do not involve any element which is not approved by the religion of Islam, right? So it is actually the same banking business, but the aims, the operations does not involve or do not involve any element which is not approved by the religion of Islam. Another definition, more or less the same by General Secretary of OIC. An Islamic bank is a financial institution whose statutes, rules, procedures expressly state its commitment to the principles of Sharia and to the banning of the receipt and payment of interest on any of its operation. Right? So that is the definition. So basically, it is the same banking system, but whereby the prohibited element must be filtered out, right? So we have also deposit product, we have also financing product, but there is no element which is not approved by the religion of Islam. So we filter out riba, we filter out gharar, we filter out zulum and khimar or maisir, right? And some other restrictions which considered as barrier to the Sharia compliance, right? This is basically Islamic bank by definition. And apart from that, in comparison, when we filter out those prohibited element, right? So then what is actually the difference between conventional and Islamic? So this is also one of the contentious issues. Sometimes people cannot see the difference, right, between conventional and Islamic banks. They are offering the same product, they are charging the same rates, for instance. All right, and so what is actually the main difference between the two, right? So basically, that is also what we will see later on when we talk about the underlying principle. But this is actually just to quote some of the main important difference between the two segments. The first one in terms of the business framework of the banks, right? While Islamic finance functions and operates based on Sharia principles, conventional financing is secular in nature. They don't have any religious connotation with it, right? It is secular in nature and free from any religious principles. So this is the first one. So very glaring difference between the two. They don't bother about any religion, right? I mean, they might based on ethical bank, for example, but they are not tied to any of the religious principle. Secondly, prohibition of riba. As I said, riba is clearly prohibited in Islam by clear injunctions from the Quran and Sunnah with stern punishment for those who practice riba. So riba or interest taking or charging is strictly prohibited in Islamic financing as well as the deposit taking. While in conventional system, interest is the backbone for all banking transactions. They have also some not based on interest, but the main product basically based on interest, charging and giving interest or riba, whether in deposit or financing product. So that is second difference. The third one, so this is have a lot of discussion between those who involved in the Islamic banking and finance sector nowadays, whereby we said that equity financing and risk sharing. So this is the value proposition of Islamic banking and finance. It is based on equity financing, based on risk sharing, right? Because the customer will share with the bank the risk and as well as the return to the bank and to the customer. So that is the one proposed, right? When it started, scholars mainly proposed the equity financing based on mudharabah and musyarakah. I think you have discussed some of these contracts. So equity financing means the customer share the risk with the bank, right? But what's happening now, right now, due to the nature of the markets and some other restrictions, the equity financing cannot realized, widely. There are some efforts, right, made by some of the quarters in the Islamic banking and finance in the world to pursue equity financing, but for banking mainly it is still based on debt financing mainly, and even though we have also some in terms of equity financing. Debt financing means that it is a fixed, the customer didn't share the risk and return with the bank. Right? We'll look into that in detail inshallah later on. Then we come to the customer relation. Customer relation. What is the relationship between the customer or the customer of the bank and the bank? For the conventional, they are the borrower and lenders. The bank is the lenders. The customer are the borrowers mainly in the financing, right? But for Islamic, they can be partners, right? Or the investors, depending on the contract use, as we will see later on. But for the conventional, creditors and debtors always, borrowers and lenders, right? The next one, penalty on default. If you default in the conventional, you will pay more, right? Because it is based on riba, right? Because it's based on riba. So the later you pay, the more you pay, right? But for Islamic product, it is penalty on default is not allowed basically, except for certain element to remedy the bank for the actual loss. These are some of the issues discussed as well. But penalty on default basically is not allowed in the Islamic banking. Restrictions in business areas. So this is one of the difference as well. For the conventional banking, they can finance almost everything. They can finance the pork-related, for instance, pork-related industry. They can finance the wine-related industry. They can finance for example, the entertainment. All right, non-Sharia compliant entertainment business, for example, there is no restriction for them. But for Islamic, you can only involve in business which is allowed or which are allowed in the Sharia. So therefore, for example, if some company dealing, or Carlsberg, for example, comes to Islamic bank to open deposit or to get financing, so that will be not allowed under the Islamic banking. So that is one of the main difference. Islamic finance instruments are based on innovations, and financial potential numbers of products are unlimited. This is due to the rule of original permissibility, right? So that the approach when we start with the Islamic banking, the idea of having Islamic banking, at the beginning, two approaches. And the first approach is to Islamize whatever the product conventionally to become Islamic, right? The conventional have deposit product. So what is the Islamic version of it? The conventional have car financing, for example. What is the Islamic version of it? So that is the approach in order to provide the alternative for the Muslims at that time. Second approach is by a innovative way. So we innovate. We go to the market. We do what is the needs of the people, and we formulate products in order to cater for the needs of the people. So that is the, within Islamic finance, it is possible, waiting for the scholars, waiting to the experts to innovate, because under the Sharia, the rule is original permissibility, because we are dealing with the Muamalat. Muamalat is actually a segment whereby the fiqh rulings in it is very dynamic, very what we can say, fihi murunah, fihi we have some flexibility in it, whereby we don't have a strict direct Quranic ayah. Many issues we solve based on the general principles that we get from the Quran and Sunnah. So the room for innovations are widely open for this field of economic activities. Okay, so we come to the last one for today, underlying principles. So what then the underlying principles which underlie the banking, Islamic banking system, right? So one of the most important thing is the contract as a basis of transactions, right? So we will see later on that in all the products, whether they are deposits, whether they are financing, there must be certain contract established. And this contract will establish the rights and obligations of each of the parties, right? So because we are not mere lending, not mere cards, because card cannot be with ziyadah. Kullu qard jarra manfa'ah fahuwa riba. Right, so therefore, bank, when they give the financing, it cannot be based on card, because by card, bank cannot charge, right? Because card in Islam is a ihsan contract. You give card to people not to get profit. You give card to people to help them. If you give card and charge, then that is not helping. So therefore, in Islam, card is permissible, or loan is permissible, but you cannot charge. You give loan 10 ringgit, you have to take 10 ringgit as well. You cannot take 11 ringgit, for example, $11, for example, right? So therefore, there are a lot of contracts which give rooms for the bank to make profit, basically, right? Which is permissible under the Sharia. For example, in the Quran, Allah said, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْءَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَى. Allah has made strong demarcation between sales and riba, whereby Allah permits sales and prohibited riba. So by sales, you can earn profit. You buy something for 10 ringgit and you sell that to somebody else at 20 ringgit even, you get 100% profit. That is permissible as long as it is by mutual consent. But for riba, you cannot, even a small portion, you cannot charge interest, or you cannot charge profit out of riba, out of loan contract. So therefore, the principle here is that it must be based on contract, permissible contract, right? I think we have also in the last session a specific cost for contracts, right? You learn about ijarah and I think some other contracts, murabahah, right? So those are some of the contracts that will be used to offer the Islamic banking products. Later on, inshallah, we will see, right? So by contract, it must be, of course, by mutual consent, right? So it must be by mutual consent. The parties must consent to the details of the contract. What are their rights? What are their liability? What are their responsibilities and rights? right, to each of the parties, right? So if it is not by mutual consent, then it is not valid, right? Rida is the basis for a valid contract in Islam. In the middle, we have the element which must be screened out. You said just now the riba, gharar, maisir, and other prohibition, for example, liquor, and anything related with that. And lastly, lawful contractual objectives. The contractual objective must be lawful, right? Say for example, you cannot do the contract, but the objective behind is to involve in some other activities which are not permissible by the Sharia. So even though there is actual mutual consent, there is not all the elements has been screened out. But if the objective itself to be used for unlawful objectives, then it is not also permissible. Okay, so the main features then of Islamic banking and finance, the first one, riba free, right? Because in Islam, money does not create money, right? So it needs trade and real economic activities. For example, you cannot use your money to earn more money without doing anything. You sit on your money and earn more money. That is not permissible in Islam because money is not commodity. You cannot sell your money, right? So money is medium of transaction. So if you want to gain profit, you must have a real economic activities. For example, you buy something and then sell in the market. So that is the real economic activities will give you right to profit, right? Unless riba, which is not permissible to earn money from riba practices. Gharar free. Gharar basically means the uncertainties, right? So contractual uncertainties must be avoided, right? Gharar basically something whereby the result of it is not clear to the parties. So you enter into contract without knowing, for example, the price. You enter into sale contract, but you don't know the price yet, right? For example, so that is gharar. That makes the contract invalid because it can bring dispute later on. No trading investment in prohibited commodities, like you said before. The main contractual relationship is not lender-borrower, but can be trading, it can be leasing, it can be partnership. Trade, profit or profit and loss sharing. There is not interest imposed on principal or loan or deposit. I think for details on riba, I think the next speaker will, I'm not sure, but as we said that riba prohibited in many Quranic verses and saying of the Prophet very clearly and very stern prohibition for riba. It means where every access in return of which no reward or equivalent counter value is paid. Only time, because you pay later, you have to pay more. So it is unjust enrichment. For contemporary finance, Islamic banking, riba occurs in interest-based lending, fixed return and deposit, forex, and etc. So that is where riba basically occur in most of the conventional financing. So which needs some alternative to that. Gharar, meaning has a range of negative connotations such as uncertainty, deception, risk, hazard, ignorance. If there is gharar, the contracting party or parties do not really understand the attributes or consequences of the contract. So later on, they will be shocked with the consequence of the contract, then that will bring dispute. So that's why if gharar occur in the contract, then a big gharar occur in the contract, that it will make the contract invalid. So gharar is prohibited because its existence in the contract may deny the parties of equal bargaining power and they can make informed decision. Because of the gharar of the element of cheating, for example, so their decision, their rida is actually not materialized. If there is a risk on the deliverability of the object of the contract, maybe sometimes they contracted or something which is not deliverable. Right, so that is also gharar. Example, the classical example given in the classical books, for instance, to sell the birds flying in the sky, right? So you don't know whether you can deliver on that or not. To sell fish in the ocean, for instance. So that is some of the examples of gharar. general freedom of the parties to enter into contracts and make contractual terms as long as the parties consented and did not contravene any of other Sharia provisions, right? So two conditions: the parties must be consented and the element of the contract does not contravene any of the Sharia principles. So the principle is known as freedom to contract, based on Surah An-Nisa 29. Don't take the property of others without their willingness, unless it is by trade, by mutual consent. So also the saying the Prophet, Muslims are bound by their contractual stipulation. Another important contractual principle, binding nature. So some of the contract, when it is entered, they are binding. You cannot cancel the contract unless the other parties agree to cancel, right? Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu awfu bil uqud. You have to be bound by the contract you have agreed upon. So that gives certainty to the contracts. That is agreed by the Sharia. In Islamic contracts, the certainty of performance of the contractual obligations, as well as elimination of any avoidable future disputes between the contracting parties, are given high priority. So I end this session today with some of the key Islamic commercial contracts that I said, the products of Islamic banking or financial markets, capital markets, always based on those contracts. So when we will discuss the implementation of these contracts in order to offer those products later on, inshallah. So the details I think you have discussed in other sessions. So I think I thank you very much for your attention. I give the session back to the organizer, or if you have any question. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah. Thank you, Doctor. MashaAllah. I think there is, can you answer some of the question, Doctor?
In the chat?
No, I will ask them if they are questions.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Yes.
Tafadhal. If any.
Yes, our participant, if you have any question, you can raise your hand, because we have limited of time, only 2 or 3 questions only.
Sister, we have 4 weeks or 6 weeks?
6 weeks, Doctor.
6 weeks, right?
Yes. There's Fatah A. Okay.
Okay, no problem. Any question?
Yes, Fatai Akani, you can open your mic. Adigon, the first time, Adigon. You can open your mic. Yes, brother.
In the meantime, maybe I can address some of the question here.
Yes.
Yojo Surjana, she asked, could you clarify the difference between the way Islamic bank makes profit versus conventional bank? This is very interesting. So I think that will be my focus for the next session, right? So as I said, the conventional banking, they make profit from the loan given, which is prohibited in Islam. But for Islamic, we use certain contracts. So that's why all the products, they will need certain contract to be established. For example, if the bank wants to provide financing to buy a car, for example, the bank will buy the car first from the producer of the car, then sell the car to the customer. So therefore, the bank make profits from a sale, not from mere card or mere loan, right? For example, the bank buy the car from Mercedes-Benz, for example, 500,000 car. But then later on, when the bank bought the car, the bank sell the same car to the customer at 700,000 to be paid in 3 years, for instance. So this is some basic example how Islamic bank make profits which is not contravening the Sharia principles. Right? What is the difference between Islamic banking and Islamization? I think Islamization is the process, right? Islamic banking is the result, right? We Islamize the banking system, then we have the Islamic banking.
Okay, we have question from I am Razi.
Tafadhal.
Yes, you can open your mic, brother.
Assalamualaikum.
Hello,
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, doctor, with regards to the Islamic banking, okay, what's your opinion on, because on tawarruk, when we're giving the financing, the customer did not enjoy the underlying asset.
Okay, that's the question, eh? So of course,
Yes.
tawarruk is one of the contract which is controversial. Basically, it is a set of sales. Contemporarily, the scholars are divided. Some of them they did not allow, and many others of course allow, and it has been practiced in many banks worldwide, particularly in Malaysia. We accept that as a permissible contract. So basically, under tawarruk, the buying and selling is actually done in order to provide the liquidity. And to provide the liquidity. For example, in my example just now, the customer need a car. Bank buy the car and sell the car to the customer. There are certain assets. So that is clearly permissible under the murabahah contract, right? But under tawarruk, the items which is sold and bought is not actually items which is the customer need basically, but the transaction is done in order to facilitate the provision of liquidity to the parties needed. So I think that will need a session to elaborate on that lah. My response to that's why it has I mean, some of the scholars objected to the usage of tawarruk, excessive tawarruk. IOFI, one of the standard status bodies in Bahrain, they allow tawarruk when there is no other solutions to provide liquidity. Right? In Malaysia, we just allow, without saying that it is for last resort financing avenue or invest instrument, right? So I think we will look into detail later on, inshallah, brother.
Doctor, Alhamdulillah, maybe we already reached 5 minutes more. If you allow one last question.
Up to you.
Okay, we give the last question. So go to Shamila. You can open mic.
Kamisa,
Masya Allah, Kamisa.
Okay. Assalamualaikum, Kamisa. Tafadhali.
Assalamualaikum, madam. Can I ask some question?
Hello. Who is speaking?
Saeed Gul from Pakistan.
Tafadhal.
Madam, I want to some logical reason behind it. If someone rented a car, it's allowed. But if someone rented some money, like someone, it's not allowed. Please, can you give some logical reason behind it?
I think the basic principle is that in Islam, money is actually medium of transaction. Right? Money is medium of transaction. It is not a commodity. Right? So we differentiate between commodity as the subject matter of the transaction. We sell car, we sell house, we sell clothes because they are commodity. But money, they are not commodity. They are medium of transactions. Right? They are money in nature, which is treated in Islam very carefully. All right, very carefully, because in Islam, in the fiqh, we have very strict rules for the exchange of money with money. forex exchange, right? Because why? Because money cannot be traded freely. Yeah, because that is not intention for money, right? Because money, they are not commodity. So this, I think that's the brief answer from me.
Yes, thank you very much to all participants. I think there is, if we open the floor to them, they will ask question because there is many question in their mind. But then we have a limitation of the time. Thank you. And inshallah, we will meet her again in the next session. And thank you very much to Doctor. May
Thank you.
Allah bless your deed today. And hopefully all our participants in all around the world will benefit from your knowledge. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. And thank you, Doctor. We will meet you again in the next session. And have a nice weekend. We have long weekend for this week.
Yeah, English. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No.
And we have a break about 20 minutes. We will come back on the 11 o'clock Malaysia, inshallah. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Shaya'a. Are you around?
Assalamualaikum, Datuk.
Yeah, please admit. Oh, yeah, Professor Haji Besar. Are you ready?
Assalamualaikum, Datuk. Selamat pagi. Yes, I am, of course.
Yeah, a few minutes time, inshallah.
InsyaAllah.
Yes. Can we start now, Prof. Haji Besar?
Okay, Datuk. If everybody is ready, can start. Just to show my face for a few minutes.
Yeah, please show. Oh, mashallah. It's not very clear. Maybe you should put the light in front of your face.
It's okay.
It looks
okay.
blur. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, okay.
It's not my face that they want to see the presentation.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. My dear brother, Professor Dr. Haji Besar, brothers and sisters from all over the world who are viewing this special program organized by IIIT. You have been following this class from 30th of July onwards. You have already covered the first 6 weeks, Islamic worldview, Islamic jurisprudence, al-Fiqh al-Islami, principle of Islamic jurisprudence, Usul al-Fiqh, Islamic legal maxim, Qawaid al-Fiqhiyyah. And then in the second 6 weeks, we have done objective of Maqasid Sharia, concept of halal and haram in Sharia, and juristic study of financial contract, Fiqh al-Maliyyah, and comparative jurisprudence. And then these last 6 weeks, we are moving toward an applied part of the program. This morning we had listened to Professor Dr. Abdulhamid, Mohamed Ali Zaroum on the contemporary juristic issues, and the second class was on banking and financial markets. It is a special today. We have 2 more speakers. They are not from the Fiqh Usul Fiqh faculty, but they are from the industry, but who had experience in application of the relevant topics to the industry. We have Professor Dr. Haji Besar, who have been academician, who have been a practitioner, who have been a trainer, who have been an administrator for the past 30 to 40 years. He was in academic, now he is still in academic at his age, as a professor in Madinah University, Medu. and he was with International Islamic University teaching program in management. He was associate professor in UNISHAM before, and interestingly, he was the trainer for Islamic Bank in Thailand for quite a number of years to train the staff in the Islamic Bank of Thailand. So with his experience, today he's going to give lecture on application of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh in Islamic banking, finance, and other applications. Of course, it's not tied to Islamic banking, finance only, because he has his experience in many other disciplines. So we are very fortunate this morning to welcome him. So our moderator today is Sister Jawaria, Professor Besar. I wish to welcome Sister Jawaria. To proceed with it, I will introduce Professor Besar.
Yeah, thank you, Dato'. Inshallah, we will continue with Professor Dato' Professor Haji Besar. Inshallah, he will teach us on the subject application of Fiqh and Usul al-Fiqh in Islamic banking and finance. Falyatafaddal maskurah, Doctor, Prof.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمد عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah. First and foremost, I must extend my real and humble gratitude to Datuk Professor Emeritus Datuk Jamil bin Osman, my brother, my dear brother, my colleague, my mentor, my boss, whom I've known him for some time, for giving me the trust to deliver a very important topic actually for this part of the program, for the certificate in the Usul Fiqh and Fiqh by IIIT as well as IIUM. And I hope with the little experience and knowledge which I have gathered over the past 40, 50 years, I should be able to share some of the important issues, current issues, contemporary issues regarding the application of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh within the context of Islamic banking and finance and other Muamalat area as well as regarded by Datuk just now. So I am also happy to see there are about 200 of the participants in this program, and my apology if my voice is not very clear or is not so sweet sounding because of old age, and of course my lighting is not very good. You can see me very blur here. I purposely blurring myself so that you can see my face very clearly. Okay. Doesn't look too old, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, I would like to share some of the material which I have prepared regarding this particular topic, which is to me so very critical and important, especially in connecting what you have studied for the last probably many weeks since the 30th of July 2022 until now, and how it is applied into the practical aspect of particularly Islamic banking and finance, and of course other areas. Inshallah, I would like to seek permission from Madam Professor Jawaria, who is the chairperson for my session this afternoon. I remember meeting her probably one of those time before, but I can't remember now. So forgive me if I have forgotten you, inshallah. وعلى كل حال إن شاء الله سنبدأ هذا المقابلة إن شاء الله بهذه السلايد. Okay. As you can see, the topic is application of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh. There are two aspects here, Fiqh and Usul Fiqh in Islamic banking and finance, and delivered by me, inshallah, on this day, 22nd October 2022, on the invitation of my dear brother, Professor Emeritus Dr. Shaya'a Othman. And of course, let us see what I wish to share with you. Perhaps I would like to take, within the time given of about half an hour or 40 minutes, to overview the fundamental of IIIT, without really knowing what Islamic banking and finance is all about, in terms of vision, mission, philosophy, and so on. We will have some difficulty in actually mapping what we have learned in terms of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh into the actual practices of Islamic banking and finance. And of course, this is just a glance through sources of Sharia, primary, secondary, and it is also significant to see interrelation and connectivity between Sharia, Fiqh, Usul Fiqh, Qawaid Fiqhiyyah, which I believe all of the participants who are from the industry, who are scholars as well, and who are actually in practitioners as well, and they should be able to understand this very, very simply. And certainly, we need to understand the application to Muamalat of all the Ahkam al-Syariah, whereby there could be some dispute among the scholars, among the fiqh scholars, among the mazahib, as regard to the Ahkam Syariah in terms of taklifi, wada'i, and so on. But this ikhtilaf bain ulama, we look at it positively and how it is applied in actual Islamic banking and finance perspective. And of course, the main thrust of this discussion today is to discuss the application of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh in Islamic banking and finance. We are going to look into the products and services, and as well as other spiritual components, the form and the substance of the banking processes, banking practices, whether it's Fiqh or it is actually derailing the actual spiritual values or requirement of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh. And I would allow, certainly with the permission of the Madam Prof Chairman of the session, to have Q&A session if we have time, and I think we should have, inshallah. So if you have any question along the way I am presenting, probably you can put it on the tube here on the screen, so we can take a note. And I would like Prof Gloria to take a note of the question. Probably we can answer all this question at the end of the session, inshallah. Right. When we are talking about IBF, Central Banking and Finance, it is not something new. The bank was, of course, developed by the Italian Jews. We call Banco. Banco means bench, which was way back in the 16th century, with history of banking. And here, we finally realized that we have been following for too long and for too much of the conventional system, whereas we ourselves have our own embedded system within our religion, within our deen. But what happened along the process for the past 40 or 50 years since the establishment of the first Islamic bank? The concept, the spirit, the requirement is remain the same, if not even more stringent, so to speak. Firstly, it should be mandatory requirement for an end-to-end Sharia compliance. This is the very, very essential concept. When we study Fiqh, Usul Fiqh, and apply it to the practical aspect of banking and finance, we are actually making sure there should always be end-to-end Sharia. What does it mean, end-to-end? So here, sometimes the form may be compliant, but the substance may have some interpretation which can construe to be non-compliant or partial compliant or maybe quarter compliant and so on. What is required after 40 and 50 years of banking, it should by now have to have the complete end-to-end compliance. And of course, goes beyond this. We have to go above what is required as far as our Islam is concerned, Islam is concerned, religion is concerned, that principle of totality, adopting totality. This is what Allah said in the Quran, Al-Baqarah 208. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu udkhulu fis silmi kafah. Udkhulu fis silmi kafah, which means that udkhulu, adopt, take, follow, adhere to silmi, all the Islamic requirements, the value, the principle, the concept, the law, kafah, in totality. And the warning that is very simple. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. And don't ever follow the step of shaitan, as we know this shaitan are our greatest enemy, which is not good. And there are possibilities after 50 years in banking. We have mixture of halal, haram, shubhah, and so on. So we have to avoid this or the forbidden. Allah says, with a clear warning to the Jewish at that particular time upon the revelation of the Quran in Al-Baqarah 42, وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. وَلَا تَلْبِسُوا الْحَقَّ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتَكْتُمُوا الْحَقَّ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Don't ever mix haqq and batil. Whereas we know وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ بَيْنَ الْحَقِّ وَالْبَاطِلِ وَالشُّبْهَةِ أيضا. And hadith Nu'man bin Bashir radhiyallahu anhu and Bukhari al-Muslim, يعني قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما أمور مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس إلى آخر الحديث. In this particular perspective, the halal is clear, the haram is clear, وبينهما يعني between halal and haram is shubhah. This is what is so very scary as far as the practical aspect of Islamic banking and finance, which I have seen for the past 40 years, for example, especially in the non-Muslim country or non-Muslim dominated country or majority non-Muslim country. For example, in Thailand, especially where we have been there and we have seen how the practices in terms of conformity to Sharia in totality is certainly not there. Fine, let me continue. This is just an overview, very simple overview. So we have sources of Quran and Sunnah. When we talk about Fiqh and Usul al-Fiqh, we are talking about sources. And secondary sources, Ijma' and Qiyas. And there are, of course, argument among scholars in terms of what are accepted commonly by everybody, or the scholars, jurists, for example, disputed sources, Ihtisan, Masalah al-Salih, for example, Uruf, Istishab, and others. But these various components of the law, Juz'iyyah, yani, the particular component of law, Islamic law, are useful in one way or another when we are talking about application to the Islamic banking and finance. The usefulness you can be seen after I have given you some example of what the product and services that the bank are actually offering now, to see whether how far and how much the conformity or the compliance to the Sharia is there in terms of form and in terms of substance. And why banks certainly avoid certain contracts, for example, certain products, certain services, for example. Is it because of risk? Is it because of other reason, for example, business reason? Or is it purely because of allowance or disallowance by the Sharia? We are going to see that, inshallah. Okay. Sharia, Fiqh, Usul al-Fiqh, Qawaid Fiqhiyyah. I heard from my brother, Professor Emeritus, Dr. Jamil, just now, that you have gone through this understanding of Sharia, Fiqh, Usul al-Fiqh, and Qawaid Fiqhiyyah. And today, what I wish to share is to see the interrelation and connectivity among all these four concepts. One of the most significant understanding which we have to bear in mind when we talk about Sharia or the sources or the main body of Islamic law is the flexibility of Sharia law. Alhamdulillah, we are so grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, the maker, the revealer of rules, regulation for the betterment of humankind and human being. Okay, there is a wisdom in the flexibility of law and significant to the Muamalat processes. If there is no flexibility, then we are today having actually a very great problem, very huge problem in the understanding of the application in the istinbat hakam al-Syariah, for example, and also in terms of fiqh application itself. Okay, so Sharia, the main body, which is undisputed, non-changeable, non-negotiable in banking terminology. It is non-negotiable here. And unchangeable, non-transferable, non-substitutable. Okay, interpretation of Sharia by Quran itself, or by the Hadith al-Sharif, or by the Sunnah of Prophet ﷺ, whether it is Sunnah Qawliyah, Fiqhiyyah, or Taqririyah, or Jibiliyah, as defined by Sayyid Sabiq in Fiqh Sunnah, ما صدر عن الرسول من قول أو فعل أو تقرير أو صفات يعني عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم constitute the total main body of actually Sharia. Alhamdulillah. Sunnah. Application of Sharia. So Sharia is the main body. Fiqh application. How you apply the law that extracted from Sharia. So application may change. This is something which we have to bear in mind. Sharia, non-negotiable, non-changeable. The main body, Aqimus Salah wa Atuz Zakah, for example, of which is a permissibility or something which is forbidden, it is there. But the application of it, how it is applied, may change in accordance with the changing time, changing technology, changing society, environment, knowledge, culture, uruf, and so on. So this is called fiqh, the application of Sharia. You may be required, as for example, as Kulli amrin sesuatu yang whatever it is, any commanded upon you, it is compulsory upon you to follow. Kulli nahyin yani to live. So it is there. But how you do, how you practice, even to the extent of practical banking, for example, there is always a leeway, a way out, depending on the opinion of the scholars, depending on interpretation of the Sharia law itself, from the source of Sharia. And then you have to go to Usul al-Fiqh, which is the fundamental principle. Okay, the original sources, methodology of extraction of ahkam, يعني the istinbat al-ahkam al-Syariah, Usul al-Fiqh, the qawaid, and also the usul. Okay, how you extract, how you take out the law, and how you apply the law is fiqh, and the body of the law is Sharia. And of course, qawaid is actually the main body of it, which comprises of the component of laws from which you are actually extracting, whether in tafsiliyah or actually ijmaliyah, it doesn't matter. You have studied this. So interrelation here is that without understanding the flexibility of Islamic law, the Sharia body itself, and the istinbat hakam al-Syariah from the Usul al-Fiqh, and the application of which, it is very difficult for the faqih or for the practitioner, for example, to apply that into the actual practical application of Muamalat, especially in banking. Because here, as I was saying, the wisdom and the significance of flexibility, alhamdulillah, that flexibility is so huge, and the opportunity for the variation in the practices and better interpretation, as we can see from different scholars who interpret differently, for example, from Abu Hanifah, from Maliyyah, from Hanabalah, al-Shafi'iyah, al-Auza'i, Sufyan al-Thawri, al-Zahri, for example, or even al-Tabari. There are differences in opinion in many of those furuq and masail, especially, and some fundamental. Okay, so with that, I covered interconnectivity, the understanding of its totality, and the application of which, whereby fiqh is changeable. Okay, the interpretation of it, the application of it, depending on the environment, the culture, the knowledge, the technology, for example, and the uruf of that particular point of science and society as well, in order to solve many problems, which scholars say maslahah, okay, dalbul maslahah, daf'ul mafasid, and some other legal maxim, which have been discussed probably by other lecturers before me, and I will touch a little bit here and there as and when it is applicable in this particular lecture, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Let me continue. It is to my mind for the discussion of this lecture to understand ahkam of hukum. Ma'amana hukum. Khitabullah al-muta'alliq bi'af'al al-mukallafin bil-iqtida' aw al-wadi' aw al-takhir aw al-wada'i aw al-taghyir aw al-wada'i. I'm sorry. Khitabullah al-muta'alliq bi'af'al al-mukallafin. Khitab here means the word of Allah. Khitab. Okay. Allah interpreted by the Quran Himself and interpreted by the Sunnah. Okay. Al-muta'alliq bi af'al mukallafin, which is actually enforced upon mukallaf. So taklif here. Okay. Whether it is by compulsion or by choice, taghyir or wada'i, something which is incoming or interconnected with it. Okay. Akam awada'i, akam taklifi. So you have understood this. Why this is significant? Because when you are formulating the product of Islamic banking, you have to confine to whether it is compulsion, it is mubah, even though scholars say al-asl min al-ashya' al-ibaha. Al-asl min al-ashya' al-ibaha, the origin of all things are permissible. But within the context of permissibility here, the application of which is that how far is it permissible? What are the connotation and the implication of which, and the framework within which we are to operate in order to make it permissible. And in tahrim, for example, hatta the dalil and tahrimhi, until sometimes when you see that there is dalil or there is reasoning or there is a proof to say that it is forbidden. Okay. What the end, there are of course something which are interconnected with the original or fundamental ahkam at-taklifi. And here we have to remember also there are differences in opinion of some of the scholars. To Shafi'iyyah we have probably 5 ahkam, but to Hanabala, sorry, to Hanafiyah, Nu'man bin Sabit, Abu Hanifah, probably 7, with addition of makruh tanziyah and makruh tahrim, for example. So these 2. And of course, with the overriding ahkam, al-hukum min al-ahkam, which is actually a fard, and then compulsion, wajib. So there are the differences here. So for the different region of the scholars, in practical aspect of banking and finance, you can see differences in the application, differences in the acceptability of what is permissible and what is forbidden to a certain extent. For example, scholars in Middle East, this is the area, for example, in MENA region, for example, MESA region, as compared to Asia Pacific region, there could be some interpretation differences in interpretation of the law, which resulted to interpretation of the product application and also product approval, where compliance to Sharia might differ to some extent. For example, we have been arguing on the issue of Ba'al-Inah and Tawaru, acceptability, permissibility, and forbidden of this contract. So this revolve around the understanding and the difference ikhtilaf bain ulama, bain al-fuqaha and umur yani ahkam syariah, whether Hanabala, Hanafiyah, Maliyyah, or Shafi'iyyah, for example. So dispute acceptable, allowable, and in Malaysia we are having banks who are opening branches here from different regions of the country, region of the world, who practice a different mazahib, for example, and we allow some differences in opinion in terms of product and services, and the central bank under BAFIA or under the Central Bank Act, for example, on the Banking Act, or even IFSA, for example, allow some differences here to be practiced, whether it is in the actual practice as well as in the reporting of the financial accounting or annual report of the bank. So this is actually some very encouraging situation and development as far as I can see, and this should continue, of course, to provide a wider perspective spectrum of the application of Sharia in the Islamic banking and finance, inshallah. Without this understanding of prohibited element, it is impossible for us to proceed with the application of Fiqh and Usul Fiqh in practical banking and finance. Certain riba. Wallahu baik wa haraman riba. Wallahu baik wa haraman riba. Maisir. Innamal khumr wal maisir wal ansar wal azlam rijsum min amali syaitan fajtanibu la'allakum tuflihun. Of course. Gharar. Naha Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam an bai'ul gharar. Injustice, zulm. This is where the framework upon which scholars of Islamic banking, Sharia scholars, members of Sharia board at all levels, even as central bank, they are actually very, very careful with this prohibited element all the way through in order to ensure end-to-end Sharia compliance. Because the argument today is that many of academicians, especially my friend, my colleague, even the Datuk Jamil friend, they have some doubt over the validity of some of the Islamic contracts being practiced by Islamic banks, whether they are really fully compliant, whether they are really consistent with Sharia, whether the element of riba, coverage here and there, of manipulating certain aspects, for example, the element of Ma'asir and Gharar, of course, certainly, Gharar Yasar, Gharar Fahid, which I don't want to discuss here because this is not the scope of my study, the scope of my lecture. But whatever it is, there is always risk of non-compliance revolving around the element of riba, Ma'asir, Gharar, injustice, Zaroum, and so on. So they care to the highest extent, okay, to the highest concern of all the mujtahid, all the people in sitting on the board of the banking organization, be it a central bank and so on. These are things which they actually looking into very, very seriously, apart from providing the best services to the industry, to the people, to the community, to the ummah, okay, to circumvent the maslahah, for example, and of course to avoid maqasid, for example, but not to forget, try, and must always remember the prohibited element within the muamalat. Having had this in mind, then we are safe. Along the way, we are safe. Okay, it's not about profitability. It's not about return to asset and about return to the equity. It's not about the market share. No, it's about compliance, compliance, and compliance. Risk of the biggest kind, risk of the most important kind, as far as Islamic banking is concerned, is certainly risk of non-compliance. Other risk to me is secondary, but the biggest and the most critical risk is risk of Sharia compliance. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Let us now look at the application in IBS. So you are talking about Islamic banking and finance, of course. We look at what banking is about. A bank is an intermediary between the saver, the provider of fund, and of course the user of fund. And there is where the muamalat concept is concerned. Of course, this is permissible as far as Sharia is concerned, provided that we are actually consistent with the requirement of Sharia. So in banking, it is standard. What is most feared when we started Islamic banking in 1983, for example, that Professor Abdul Halim there, Ahmad Tajuddin was there, and I was one of the small person in the industry at that particular time. My friends, so many of them are very big people today. We are actually, not to say struggling, but we are actually mapping most of the product from the conventional bank, okay, to assimilate it, okay, based on the framework of the conventional system. Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. Is it compliant? Yes. What we did, what we actually trying to explore, trying to inculcate, trying to actually produce in terms of Islamic contract and so on, product and services, is to provide the best opportunity for the Muslim to do muamalah in compliance with Sharia. So of course we have the conventional system who have been there for hundreds of years in Malaysia, Argentine Bank on Netherlands, for example, Banco Nacional de Paris, for example, you have been in the 17th centuries, 18th centuries, early 18th centuries. Just imagine hundreds of years. And when we come, it's naturally, it is not wrong for us to adopt and adapt some of these conventional products, but we don't use the word Islamization. We have to make it Islamic. So Islamization probably is not suitable in the many context of this product and services, but make it Islamic. So as far as bank is concerned, so we have all those fundamental regulation, regulatory framework, okay, the environment within which we are operating, the people who we have trained to become the Islamic bankers, and all our before we are conventional bankers. So what happened was we changed from one building to another building, from conventional bank to Islamic bank. We are sitting different tables, but our mind, our brain are still the same. Our brain, our mind at that time was still the same. What do I mean by still the same? We are conventional minded person. We are actually riba minded person, interest minded person. But when we change to Islamic practices, it is not easy, you know, because we have been there for many generations, many years, and just not about changing place, changing framework, changing platform, changing regulatory requirement, but changing the entire perspective and also perception of the ummah, whether it is compliant Sharia or not. And to us, of course, we carry a very high burden, huge and tremendous burden to ensure that Sharia is paramount, which we should avoid. Okay, for the Islamic banking and finance, we see now how the episode of fiqh. Fiqh means that al-ilmu bi-syai'in wal-fahmu lah. Al-ilmu bi-syai'in wal-fahmu lah. Yeah, the understanding of certain thing and the application of it. Okay, this is fiqh. So as they will say in Surah Hud, qalu ya Shu'aib ma nafqahu kaseeran mimma taqul. Oh, they say, Ya Shu'aib, we do not understand most of the things that you say. This is the people of science say. So faqaha yafqahu here, apply into the, we ourselves in the banking system, the people in the bank must really understand the rule of fiqh in all the product and services that we are offering. Okay, we have to understand what is permitted, what is forbidden, what is actually between permissibility and between forbidden. And of course, the limit upon which, in terms of form and substance, which we have to really adhere to follow. Okay, and then of course, and then you go to Qawaid, for example, extraction of law to apply into the fiqh in the coinage of the product, whether it's a deposit product, financing product, guarantee product, whether it's debt financing, equity financing, whether it's a guarantee, a bond, or wakalah, ijarah, whatever it is. So consistency here, it has to be there. Okay, we have been watched not only by the regulatory bodies, supervisory bodies, but also most importantly by our Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, inshallah. So when we are talking about the qawaid here, so here the fundamental rule is that we have to follow what Al-Shafi'i was saying in interpretation and of course in the definition of usul fiqh, ma'rifatu dalail al-fiqh al-ijmala, yani wa kayfiyat al-istifadati minha wa hal al-mustafid. The understanding of sources or dalail, the evidences, for example. We have to find evidence to ensure that it is actually fitting or befitting the requirement of Sharia. Okay, capital istinbat, the mechanism, methodology of extraction of the law there. Okay, and of course the people, the person who hal mustafid, yani the people, the person who actually doing it, extracting it. Okay, the fakir. So with that requirement of three domains, we are actually quite confident so far we are on the right track of applying the fiqh and qawaid fiqh in the Islamic product. Let us see deposit. We have current account. What is wadi'ah? Wadi'ah? Ya dhamana. Wadi'ah ya amana. This is actually fiqh principle. Okay, fiqh principle. And of course, extracted from the usul fiqh. The mechanism of methodology of it extracted from it. So dhaman here is guarantee of safety. The only thing here, extension of this application in Islamic banking is that, is the bank liable or responsible for providing profit, which is equivalent to interest in the context of conventional banking? Wadi'ah saving account, for example. So the scholars believe that it is not compulsory because we are providing guarantee and then allowed to use the fund deposited by the customers within the banking system for investment, for funding, and at the discretion of the bank to provide what is called hibah. Again, hibah, actually, the concept of hibah. This is the fiqh concept of hibah, providing something which is out of voluntary gift, without compulsion, without the requirement of law, for example, to give. But you must see here, when we are talking about application of fiqh and usul, one part is the fiqh itself and usul fiqh itself. Another part is the practical reality in the banking business. For example, even though in wadi'ah concept, you are not compulsory to provide profit to the depositors, but the industry, the entire industry in banking, conventional banking, we are only 25 or about 30% of the sharing of the market share under 70% by, or probably now it's about 60% by other conventional banking. If everybody is giving, so how can we, for example, Islamic banking system are not giving? We are trying to avoid the prohibition in Islamic contract, as I was telling earlier on, which is number one, riba, maisir, gharar, injustice. This is element of injustice. Okay, but mind you, we are always very careful about promise. Wa'ad, which is another terminology here. Akad is another terminology. Difference between the two. Wa'ad, akad. Whether to have predetermined rate or not. Of course, Islam, we cannot associate all promises in terms of financial reward into the interpretation of riba, whether riba nasi'ah, riba al-fadli, riba al-qad, for example, or riba al-duyun, riba al-buyun. No way. There's no way. Okay. Therefore, we give indicative rate. This is not what is provided in the Sharia law provided by, but it is as a consensus of the scholars, it is allowed, for example, to provide indicative rate, indicative amount of 2%, 3% per year. So therefore, we solve the problem here. Maslahah is solved, application of fiqh is solved, and qawaid we extracted from it is solved, and the product is available to the customer. There goes other deposit product for the investment account, the murabaha, mudarabah, for example, which is not actually been very popular. Musyarakah, especially mudarabah, yes, because bank become the mudarib and the customer, the depositor become rabul mal, sahibul mal. So there are sharing of risk there. Of course, is allowed under Islamic law. Traditionally, from the time of Jahiliyyah, from the time of Prophet in Mecca, for example, we have seen the movement of caravan from Yemen to Mecca, and from Mecca to Damascus, Damascus, Syria, for example, Sham. From time of Prophet, even Prophet himself, one of the mudarib, doing the in trading on the property of Khadijah of Walid, rahimallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the concept of mudarabah, okay, the sharing. So this is actually pre-Islamic concept. So it does not mean that it is not accessible as far as the application of fiqh or usul fiqh is concerned in the Islamic finance. No, it's applicable and acceptable. Yes, certainly acceptable. The only thing is that we have to make sure that it is always consistent with the Sharia. Okay, back to mudarabah, for example. Prophet was a mudarib. Who was the rebel man? Khadijah. Prophet sharing. Was there early agreement of it? Yeah, there could be. Narration by some of the scholars, there could be some agreement. Is there predetermined in terms of amount? No. Prophet sharing in terms of quantum, permissible under the law, but fixed amount, predetermined amount, of course, it can amount to riba. No, there's no way. Same thing also. For example, you're talking about wakalah deposit. Okay, it's also the musyarakah deposit, for example, and other form of deposit, court deposit, for example. It revolves around adherence to the principle of fiqh, okay, extracted from the usul fiqh, and minding very, very strongly in terms of compliance to avoid those prohibited elements of riba, maisir, gharar, and so on in this particular contract. Let us move on to credit, for example. This is a very interesting discussion. We have debit card, credit card, for example. Credit card has been one of the biggest arguments among the Islamic scholars and Islamic economics, for example, whether it is Sharia compliant or not. Of course, what are the concept, the contract there? You are talking about tawaru and inah. Until today, actually, Malaysian banking are 50-50 to my understanding now, shifting from the inah, which has been disputed by many of the scholars in terms of validity and compliance to Sharia, similar to circumventing the concept of riba, just to provide facility to the customer. Okay, the bank sell a product on the credit basis, and the customer sell back to the bank immediately on the cash basis. Actually, pre-arranged arrangement, and it's between two-party arrangement. And some scholars are not very happy with the especially the scholars from MENA region, Besar region, as well as some of the ASEAN scholars, including one of the Indonesia. And in Thailand, of course, very, very rampant. Islamic Bank of Thailand use kawa-inah almost in all aspects of financing, because very simple. It's very close, very similar to the formatting of conventional banking system based on interest. So tawaruk, of course, there are tri-parties, but there are argument among the scholars here. Okay, into application of fiqh. Argument here, the validity, permissibility of the pre-arranged tawaruk. Pre-arranged tawaruk. Some scholars argue that it is not permissible. Some scholars say that it is permissible on the contract of wakalah. Contract of wakalah, the wakil, for example, especially using the suq sila, using the metal, market suq sila, for example, the commodity market, whereby you have the product sold by the bank, and then the customer buy on credit basis and then sell to the third party through wakil, okay, wakalah concept here there, and then get cash and to back funding. The objective is to get cash for the cash flow requirement, for the business requirement, for inventory purchases, and so on, not for the long-term asset acquisition, but for the short-term requirement of the customer, or the small business SME, so on. So here we've got to be very careful. There are still until today argument, on the permissibility of INA. What is most important, again, to my mind, in all this, there have been accusation by the market or by the scholars, for example. There have been some element of injustice in the practice of Islamic banking. Yes, you are compliant to fiqh, extracted from the Usul al-Fiqh. Yes, no doubt about that. You have the form, correct. The subterm might be arguable. Subterm arguable. In terms of what? In terms of the fairness, justice, transparency, and so on. Okay. When you are contracting on the contract of INA, for example, what is the margin of profit that you are actually buying back on cash basis? So this issue of margin is not a small matter as far as the application of a fiqh in the Islamic banking. What do I mean by this? For example, you sell a product or an asset to the customer 150,000 for example, deferred payment. Okay, for deferred payment or on installment, for example. It's not in the back bataman ajil, but it's in the back ajal. It's not issue there. And then the customer immediately sell back. Make sure that the contract is signed, bought by customer, sold by customer. I have seen in banking practices when I was in banking, sometimes customers sell first before the bank sold the product. In the agreement, the dating, the time was intentionally or unintentionally or mistakenly wrong. There was the signature of the seller before they acquire the product. Be very, very careful. Those people in the bank, very, very careful about this. All right. The margin of profit, for example, 10,000 worth of product that you are selling to customer, and then customer sell back to you for 8,000. So you have profit of 3,000 over a period of 3 years for the use on the credit card payment. The issue here is that what is the fundamental principle or the rationale behind 3,000 profit? Nobody can answer so far. I've been asking this question in many conferences, meetings all over the world, but they said, how can you answer? The same thing also, for example, on the contract of murabaha, for example, selling a house, 300,000, payable in 3 years. You buy the house of 100,000. What is the rationale of 200,000 profit? What is your rationale of that? My answer from my experience in the application aspect is that I am following the conventional bank. What do I mean by I am following conventional bank? I am following the interest rate charged by conventional bank, by public bank, by the Maybank, the conventional, for example, by Citibank, by so on. That is market rate. So I computed back, I have to set 300,000 because of the margin profit based on interest calculation. If that is the basis, I don't see total compliance there. I don't see the full compliance there. This is the argument. You must have our own, we have to have our own reason and rationality of marking up based on our cost, our efficiency, because Islam encourages efficiency and cost saving and offer benefit to the ummah. So how can you simply, under your table, there's a table there, interest rate, and you follow that and you pick up the amount? Please answer this in the Q&A question if you have the answer. All right, this is debit card. So the argument there, compliant, yes, but application of fiqh over there, argument, and of course dispute in terms of margin. Debit card, same also, muqasah, for example. I'm not arguing now on the other aspect of application. For example, is it buying some of the product prohibited in Islam using credit card acceptable or not? So the concept might be different now. And hadith from Ubadah al-Samit radhiyallahu anhu, وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعني الذهب بالذهب والفضة والبر بالبر والشعر بالشعر والتمر بالتمر والملح بالملح سواء بسواء مثلا بمثل يدا بيد فإذا اختلفت من هذه الأصناف فبيعوا كيف شئتم فإذا كان يدا بيد. So these requirements have been complied certainly, but there are still people using credit card to buy gold, for example, to buy whether yadan biyadin or element. And of course, there are many formats, many versions of credit card. Is it wakalah there, or is it, for example, by the issue of the card or by the customer? I am not going to argue this because it's a very long argument of this particular contract, for example. And it has been disputed by many, and of course, scholars tend to argue that it is acceptable because of certain contract which is compliant to Sharia. I agree with them. It's okay. But I also agree with those who argue with it, who disagree with it. So I agree with those who agree, and I agree with those who disagree. And either cari makan or finding food kind of thing, no, because they have reason for agreeing and they have reason, okay, nas or dalil for not agreeing. Housing finance, murabah, I have discussed it. Istisna, for example. Istisna and salam. Salam, istisna. Okay, this is okay. Parala istisna, salam. Salam was originally prohibited in Islamic law, Islamic practices. When Prophet ﷺ reached Medina, Prophet saw the practices of the Madanian people, especially the farmers. Okay, they have the hadiqah, the garden of Taman, for example, and they sell forward to the Jewish who have the control in the market or market Bani al-Qaynuqat beside the mosque of the Prophet now, which is no longer there. And it is the practice, and then taking the money in advance and sell the product for the future. So come the contract of future contract, for example. How does fiqh scholars look into this concept of future contract, future sale? Is it valid or not? And of course, along this line, there have been an argument on the interpretation of hadith of Prophet ﷺ, where Prophet said that, "La tabi' ma laysa indak." La tabi' ma laysa indak. Do not sell something you don't own, or buy al-ma'dum, for example. How can you comprehend this buy al-ma'dum with the concept of selling for futures? So this is the application of fiqh in the Islamic banking and finance, buy al-ma'dum. Prophet said, "La tabi' ma laysa indak." Now we've seen that all the platform of Muamalat, whether banking and so on, will heavily dependent on fintech, financial technology. We use the platform of e-commerce, e-dagang in Malay terminology. We use, for example, WhatsApp purchasing. We don't see the buyer, don't see the seller. We cannot comprehend the element of akad or uqud. We cannot see the al-bayu al-mushtari, for example, saman ma'kun alayh, for example. So these are the issue, the area of discussion, the area of content. But if you are confident in compliance to Sharia in all the elements, for example, we are talking about asirah. Okay, asirah. You have talking about the seller, the buyer, the contract there. Okay, in terms of buying and selling, maybe you are talking about ma'kun alayh as well, the product itself. Not only to mention it must be legal, it must be halal, it must not contain something which is forbidden by Sharia law, for example, because you have to follow the Quran. Yeah, that's all.
Assalamualaikum,
exhausting my time now.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Yeah, time's now. Yeah.
So we can go on just last slide. Okay, last slide.
Okay.
Now. Okay, this vehicle financing, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm showing in order to is the application of fiqh and also fiqh, but there are, of course, it's not just applied to the product, but the administration of the product is also very critical as far as banking and finance is concerned. Okay, and finally, we have here, and of course, case of Ngah and Tawaruk, which I was discussing just now, and of course, case of cost plus and so on. So thank you very much for being with me, and I hope it has a benefit with you. And I must thank you, Dato, for giving me the opportunity to share some of my knowledge and inshallah, which is very little. And of course, looking forward for the future sharing, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Haji Besar. Inshallah, you will continue in the next class on Saturday. Inshallah, we have 5 more weeks going to be with you. Thank you very much. I think we have listened how the
today the introduction and the overall concept.
Just introduction. You can see how the Fiqh Usul Fiqh application, when it comes to the reality, there are variety of things that according to Mazhab and so on. So you will listen to this inshallah more in the next class, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, Professor Dr. Haji Besar, inshallah. Thank you. See you again next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So have a good holiday for you.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We have our last class today is to be given by Professor Dr. Shaya'a Othman. Are you around, Professor Dr. Shaya'a?
Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm here now. Can you hear me?
Thank you. I wish to welcome Professor Dr. Shaya'a to our online class. This is another topic on the application of Maqasid Sharia in management, hospitality, and banking and finance. You have another interesting person here. He's not a Sharia man, but he has had a long experience in the industry. He was in the banking industry for many years as a senior general manager in Hong Leong Bank. And then he was the Deputy Director General of Maju Ikan at that time, and government department. He was also in statistic department before. And interestingly, after that, he migrated to Turkey for 18 years, which he was the pioneer to export proton saga to Turkey. And then after that, he ventured into the Islamic hotel business over there. This is the first Islamic hotel in Turkey, but maybe the first in the world, using the application of real and Sharia, in Sharia compliance. And back to Malaysia, he became the CEO of Insania Holding. He was teaching in the University Islam Malaysia in Cyberjaya. He was also teaching in College University Islam Antarabangsa Selangor, now University Islam Antarabangsa Selangor. And he's a senior academic fellow at International Institute of Islamic Thought, with his experience in various industries, which not many people have done. He has written books on Islamic tourism, and he obtained his PhD very late, at the age of 72. I think not many people can beat him. And after getting enough experience in industry, he did his PhD on Maqasid Sharia in application to Maqasid Sharia in application to strategic management. You can't. He will brief you on that, inshallah. So this is the kind of people that we need, and for you to understand more, because if you are in the industry, you will have to know how Maqasid Sharia is applied in industry. So without further ado, I wish to call upon Professor Dr. Shaya'a to deliver his lecture today. Welcome, Dr. Shaya'a.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, brother Professor Dr. Jamil, who is my long-time friend since we were in the Institute Technology Mara in 1970s, and then we went to London together. He also be my close friend, even though we departed when I work in Turkey, and he keep on studying in work in the university. But when I came back in 2014, he pulled my hand to be in university to teach, to share my experience. And of course, he pushed me and he pulled me and he persuaded me to do the PhD. That is why I did my PhD in later stage, because through his advice that by practical experience that you could combine with the theoretical or academics world, perhaps you can do much better research. So that's why I did my research, Maqasid al-Syariah, in application as a strategy in the strategic management, with the special case study on environmental business. So the three elements there. But anyway, thank you very much, Dato, Professor Jamil, for putting me in this direction. Okay, we were given. I'm given what time, Dato? Till 12:30.
45 minutes, Professor saya.
45 minutes. I mean, it will be.
You can stop at about 12:30 or 5 minutes more, maybe. 12.
Yes.
Yeah, 12:35.
Okay, thank you very much. For this 5 weeks lectures for every Saturday beginning today, I want to discuss with you the structure of my lectures. For today, part 1, basically, it's just an introduction in the sense that why we should integrate knowledge today. Who is this culprit who disintegrate knowledge with the values of God? So we'll discuss on that. And also we will try to discuss whether the existing system of regulation of laws able to save human rights. We will discuss that under United Nations study, United Nations declaration, and so on. And then on the second day, perhaps we could study on Sharia, Maqasid al-Sharia, that means Sharia and Maqasid al-Sharia, the relationship, and then how we could apply in management, or call it Sharia management, and also how we could apply it in economy, tourism, and even finance, what will be applied today. Sorry if there is any grammatical mistake on this slide, because nobody helped me to proofread it. But anyway, this will be able for us to understand on the second part. On the third part, we will try to look Maqasid al-Sharia as a strategy. This is very important. When we talk of Maqasid al-Sharia, it is basically its ultimate objective of Sharia. As a strategist or in business world, we're looking into the long-term objective. So how Maqasid al-Sharia could replace the existing secular strategy, which is based basically on profitability. Maqasid al-Sharia, looking beyond that, Maqasid al-Sharia is my ultimate objective of Sharia. I mean, the Sharia, as what Brother Professor Besar mentioned, that is this what I call a long-term objective, in that sense that Sharia is Islamic law. So anyway, that is a third session, I mean on the part 3. And then we try to look at how Maqasid al-Sharia creating a new stream of Islamic economy. It is entirely diverted from the existing conventional economy, where you can see the conventional economy putting God aside. Everything is profitable. Everything is commercial. Nothing to do with God. Nothing to do with human. So Maqasid al-Sharia creating a new stream of Islamic economy. I'm looking at overalls. I don't go to detail. As a strategy, we're looking at overall element, overall direction, so that we're able to move toward that direction. So the last of my lectures, perhaps we try to future outlook of humanistic Sharia society. Today, if you ever learned, you ever came across these elements of Society 5 advocated by the Japanese, that with artificial intelligence they wanted to create Society 5. So in that case, I worked through the Society 5 advocated by this Japanese government as well as Japanese industry. We tried to replace it as a Muslim to have a humanistic Sharia society. It's very important, rather than Society 5, which they are advocating now. Okay, these are the structure of my lesson for this next 5, what they call 5 weeks, yeah? So you can see today, sorry, so these are application, okay. These are the structure. And today, I'll try to discuss with you, there are 4 components of my discussion relating to as introduction, as being explained to you, introduction. We must be able to understand this secularism. Who is this culprit into this secularism? Who is this guy? What they're trying to do? We must understand this, so we're able to counterattack them. We can see that in this, what we call, okay, before we go that, I forgot to tell you, at the end of this lecture, so before going to that, at the end of the 5 weeks lectures, you will be able to understand Maqasid al-Syariah as a strategy. You will be able, sorry, my spelling here, you're able to understand that Maqasid Sharia is creating a new dimension of Islamic economy. These are the biggest opportunity, as you can see that Islamic banking, in the industrial halal industry, now to Islamic tourism, we are creating a new dimension of Islamic economy, giving opportunity to all the Muslim and non-Muslim alike. They are the replacement of a conventional economy at present. And the third, we hope that you'll be able to integrate this revealed knowledge, because Maqasid al-Sharia is a revealed knowledge, and with the secular knowledge and with the work process, and to come out with a Islamic economy or Islamic commercial, Islamic, what do you call it, management and so on. As when you will grow up to be a manager, you'll be look into this aspect. So hoping the end of these 5 lectures, this is the you'll be getting. I hope that all of you will be able to finish these 5 lectures, 5-week lectures. Perhaps you will understand, as we understand that, as Abu Bakr said, Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, without knowledge, action is useless. If we do something without knowledge, it's useless, isn't it? Without knowledge, action is useless. Knowledge without action is futile. I mean, your knowledge without action, you have all the knowledge, but you just sleep, do nothing, it's futile. So it's very important. We have knowledge for those actions, so the knowledge should not become useless. We do action, we must have knowledge so that we're not futile. So these are Sayyidina Abu Bakr say, okay, just to recall us. So this is an end of the lecture we hope to achieve. Okay, as I mentioned earlier just now, that this introduction today, I'm trying to discuss with you to recall this secularism, how this secularism has diverted or make our thinking today, even in the government, in the commercial industry, even in our individual society, that everything, nothing to do with God. This is what secularism is about. So we can see here, the secularism, the dichotomy of knowledge existed, and dichotomy of work also, work process, nothing to do with God. If we do everything as an engineer, nothing to do with God. If we are an academician, we try to introduce new knowledge, nothing to do with God. These 2 important elements that exist of secularism. This secularism actually is being invented by this culprit British writer George Jacob Hollywood in 1851. He is not a scholar, he is just a writer. So he introduced the word secularism, and he described everything in this world, what we do, knowledge, nothing to do with God. He was even put into prison, this guy, 2 years, because at that time, 1851, Christendom is still strong in Christianity, but he was put 2 years in prison, but he came out again and he formed a movement of secularism. So his ideas of secularism just for one person, and his movement is spread out throughout the world and a divide dichotomy of knowledge and God, work process and God. So this is what happened today. That is why we need for an Islamic revelation in the span of Islamic. There is only way that Islam could save this world. Okay, and this because of this secularism, as you say, in 1851 by George Jacob Hollywood. Okay, now at present effort has been done. I do not know worldwide, but I know in Malaysia, the effort by Islamization by Professor Al-Najib Al-Attas in 1978, he introduced the concept of the ideas of Islamization to Islamize all the knowledge. And later, 2010, Muhammad Kamal Hassan refined it further, Islamicization, the word Islamization, not Islamization, Islamization. But if you read through the two, I've read through the two ideas, the ideas are the same, okay? And of course, in 20 now, we are putting the element of integration. The reason why we are putting integration, because when we talk about Islamization, especially in Europe or in America, in Western world, they are worried, oh, Islamists, you want to Islamize us. This is why we put integration of knowledge, reveal knowledge. Integration means Islam itself is principle, rules, regulation. Work process is work process. It adds values to work process. It adds values to knowledge. That is what Islamization means about. But because of the sensitivity of the word Islamization, we rather use integration. It means the same. Okay, we do that. Just giving a summary of what I've said just now. This is secular knowledge. This is a secular work process. This is Sharia, reveal knowledge. This be disintegrated. So what we're trying to do is to reveal Sharia, reveal knowledge, integrate into secular knowledge and secular work process. And also the three should be integrated into one, to me. In a sense of the knowledge without action, then it is, what do you call that? It's useless, but in the sense that if it's been integrated into the work process, everything is a work process. Excuse me. Engineering is work process. Management is work process. Medical is work process. Sharia, revealed knowledge is wisdom, principle, rules, and regulation integrated into the work process. That is what it meant, integration, which I interpreted in this way. Okay. Okay, now any question as far as we're going to go for the second part of part one? Grave global catastrophes.
Yeah, they can ask question in the chat box.
Yes, because to make everybody
just check the chat box
before they forget.
You
So
can
just
have a look.
Yes. I give you one question. If I can't answer it, I will answer next week. But in this case, if you focus your question on that particular point, we're talking of introduction of secularism and talking about Islamization and so on, perhaps anybody, then we proceed. Okay.
So far there is no question yet.
No so question because they understand well. If any question, if I couldn't answer, I can pass over to the Professor Jamil to answer. He's more expert than myself. Okay. Here I'm looking on, not on academic, and I'm looking at application. Okay. So when you look into this, everybody is looking into a solution. United Nations is looking to solution. After the war, they'll be killing each other, the world destruction and so on. In 1945, the United Nations come up with a resolution and passed in 1988 because of the human right, you see. And because the reason behind resolutions to be made, because what existing today, you can see, yes, today, this is what happened today. You can see that despite of all other efforts being carried out, you can, this on the right side here, you can see the depletion of ozone layers. Why? Management without values. They don't care about human. They don't care about God. They just make money out of it. It doesn't care what happened to the world. Let the future generations save the world. As long as they live within a certain time, they're able to make money, that is fine for them. Greenhouse effect now. Poisonous tax in a wake, water waste, water toxic waste. Poisonous toxic goes into the water table. Because I was involved in one business of this, what they call environmental business in one country, which I do not want to mention the name, is a very rich country, but unfortunately they don't have a good regulation. So this big company, respected company, oil company, they don't care. They just dump the solid sludge, oil sludge into the pond, and it goes down to the water table. They don't care. Just not saving money. Just because the country is not don't have a proper regulation. Look at Africa, for example. The country don't care about environment. Let people die. That is why they don't have the values, humanistic values, of God values into it. So that is the reason the world today is full of commercialization and profitability. You can see in commercialization this side. You realize that in this case of cleansing, killing, in the 20th century, what happened in Bosnia, they used rape as a means of war, raping the Muslim as a weapon. They just kill people just like that. Society, you just imagine, this is at the civilized nation of Europe, this thing happened, yeah? And they don't care when the United Nations Army is, when the children is protected in the so-called safe area, they just kill them. They don't care. And they just look at it. Who cares? Because of survival of fittest, they don't care anything about religion, so humanistic, what do you call it? War is basically is because of reason of the commercial reason. You can see even what do you call that? Ukraine and Russian war. What is the reason behind it? Behind the collapse of European economy. You can see that European being used. I look at a different angle. Yeah, because war, no, because of money, because of industry. Okay, the biggest industry in America to survive is the military industry. They can't survive with that industry. The other one you can say human degeneration, human trafficking. Human trafficking, I think it's about 33 million a year, you see, of human slavery. It is studied by United Nations. I have the figures later. You see, this happened now in this world. Now, it's happening now. Intellectual disintegration now, disintegrate intellectual, academic profession is different, dichotomy. Knowledge is for sake of knowledge. There's not much integration, knowledge of and industry, not much happening today, you see. And commercialization, you see, human education, medication. You know the medication of COVID-19 is being studied by the Africa Alliance. Every 1 minute, the 3 companies make 10, and only 1 second, the company make $1,000 every second. You could imagine. They're making. And then the United Nations persuading this company, please help the African. We have been giving money to help you to start with the research. They don't care. They don't want to give. You see? Well, this is what happened in money because what? There's no values, humanistic values. There's no God-fearing values into this. Everybody talking of money profitability. Yes, okay. 15 minutes. And now, this is what's happening. Okay. This is what happening in the world. This is what we're going to see. Commercialism, sex, and so on. Yeah, the next point of the 1.3. United Nations, as I mentioned earlier, 1945, in 1948, it was my birthday here in 1948. I'm getting older now. Age is catching up with me. There are 30 articles for protection human rights. I just give you just remember December 1948. You just later on, you just do your own finding or research. This is what happened. They try to the concept of dignity, liberty, protection, human rights, trying to making members to put values into the management and so on. But they fail in that way. You can see the basic concept, Human Rights Declaration 1948. But you can look into the internet, you can get it there, what is happening. And what happened now today? They ask members, please make certain regulation, please, value added dignity, liberty, equality, and so on. Please, the right of everybody to live and so on. They persuaded members country since 1948. But what happened today? Unfortunately, social human degeneration happening globally. Nothing happened. Nobody bother. South Africa, every 4 minutes, one guy being raped. Imagine 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Yeah. USA, every 1 hour, 21 being raped. This is done by United Nations. What they call this study. Sweden is the highest reported cases of rape every 100,000. 69 people just being women being raped because commercialization, because of they don't care about the society, and this is what happening. That where Islam should come in, we are the people to assist. And look at other aspects. Now the sex, slavery, and so on. Yeah. Now we look into this. Alcoholism. Every 10 seconds, worldwide, one person die. One person died. It was studied by the United Nations WHO in 2012. And at that time, the United Nations asking members, please, try to make strict regulation. This is what's happening. You're killing humanity. They short of saying that, please introduce Islamic law. They just say, please put a very strict regulation. They don't do it. Why? Because of commercialization. It's a big business in alcohol. It's about billion, trillion business. I remember in early, I think in 1980, America banned alcoholism. It happened in America in 80 something. And then later on they withdraw it back because of industry, persuaded by these industries, this alcohol manufacturer. And this is what's happening, you see. Yeah, about $301 billion industry of this alcoholism, you see. So we see, sex, alcohol is social degeneration. I just pick up a small point, you see. This alcoholism, you can see, the death is much, 5.9% death globally, yearly, compared to HIV/AIDS. It's only 2.8%, tuberculosis 1.7%, and violence 0.9%. That means the highest death in this world due to alcoholism. Okay, now what is the solution? The solution is the Muslim is supposed to take the challenge because we are the best ummah, you see. We are the best ummah brought for this mankind. Brought to this world to save mankind. We have no alternative because the reason behind it, we enjoin what is good and forbid what is wrong. And the most important thing, we are being brought to this world to save the world. So we have been given Quran, we're given the operational parts of it by the Prophet Muhammad SAW, the Sunnah. When I look at Sunnah as the operational part of principle, wisdom of the Al-Quran. You see, it is not just a theory, but people talk of the Quran as a theory, it's philosophy, it's I disagree. It is a wisdom, principle, and rule regulation. Okay, you can read. Prophet is last sermon. He said that I left behind you Quran and Sunnah. Quran and Sunnah for you to follow, and you will never be straight. You see, okay. As we know, the Quran is the mothers of all knowledge, isn't it? Ummitul Kitab. That means whatever we do, research, principles, we should start from the Quran. Because it's the mothers of knowledge, Allah says. Okay, this is important. And the other one aspect is that the messenger, of course, is the best. It brings mercies to the world. It also is an excellent characters and so on that we should follow. You see, and this is what we said. And you can see the Quran itself. If I give a summary of it, the Quran consisting of very simple chapters, 6,266 verses. You see, and then we have what do you call 144 chapters. We have 350 consisting of verses relating to rules and regulation, and 70 verses relating to munakahat, regulation of what they call it, fiqh munakahat, the family laws, marriage and so on, fiqh muamalat 70, fiqh other fiqhs 70. So we can under 40 verses work. That is, this is ibadat versus laws 70, ibadat is worship is on 40. So they are basically full of rule regulation and also wisdom inside there for us to follow and implement it in the modern world, in the world today. I don't call it modern world, I call it Jahiliyyah world today. It's full of Jahiliyyah. And then we can see back. Just give a summary. You see, another 5 minutes, perhaps 150 minutes, we can open some discussion. So I'm trying to capsulize what we have understand. I'm sure what you learned from Sharia, various definitions of Sharia and so on. I just try to capsulize it for us to digest it, easier for us to digest and remember, so that we be able to understand better in whole perspective, because we're looking at strategies. When you are managers or you are the leaders of the nation, you must understand this overview of Sharia for you be able to give direction to your subordinate. If you don't understand the whole view of the Sharia, you leak a small portion of it, then it's much, I mean, I don't say it's difficult to go toward proper direction, because the detail of it could be undertaken by an expert. As a strategist, you must understand Sharia. What is Sharia actually? It's very simple. Sharia, when people say Islamic law, yes, Islamic law. I would rather put it in the ways that Sharia is commandments of Allah in all human activities in this world. Commandments of Allah in all human activities. Very simple. You see? That is irrespective of what? Of your Muslim or non-Muslim. When I talk to the European scholars, even original people, he asked me, I present this thing, what is Sharia? Hey, very simple. Sharia is all the rules of God is for all humanity. And where is your source? My source is Quran. You see, full of principle, wisdom. It's not a concept. It is principle. It's being operationalized, being practiced by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You see, it was a proven practice as at that time and today. And the Quran itself, it challenged humankind. Can you produce a certain surah? Gather all of you, gather surah better than Quran. And certain verses, I think Surah 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayat 50, if I can remember, if they correct me, Allah says to us, do you want to follow Jahiliyyah law? Can they make a better system or laws better than Allah? It's generous. And I also said to this guy, my professor from Europe, regional conference, can you see better than that? You look at the American, I look at the United Nations, all of them, it fails to save the world today. So this our source. We have a written source, I said. And we have written practices as role model too here, that to give us the commandments of Allah. And the commandments of Allah consisting of this category on the right. First is aqidah. Human being must have some belief in it. Aqidah. I mean, as you know, aqidah, I mean, belief in God, belief in the what do you call that? Belief in what do you call that? Angel, belief in the Kitabullah, belief in the Rasul, belief in the hereafter, belief in the destiny. So these are the belief, a belief that is aqidah. And secondly, we have akhlaq. Yeah. The akhlaq is ethic. We have a certain code of ethic, the Muslim. This code. What I mentioned here is that something to do with integration of our life. Ethics. We have the ethic. The way we dress is ethical. We have some dress for women, some dress for men. And it's the same. We have certain ethic in how we talk, take care of parents, and how we talk in social gathering and integration. We have some ethic, code of ethic in Islam. It's very specifically mentioned in the Quran and also practiced by Allah. Okay. Other than that, we have fiqh, laws and regulation. We have laws and regulations, which is formulated. For example, I don't want to repeat, you must have gone into these courses, but just a summary, fiqh muamalat, fiqh, what do you call, fiqh ibadat, that is regulation relating to worship, relating to this muanakahat, muamalat, siyasa, what do you call, dawlah, and jinayat, and so on. So these are the rules and regulation category 3 component, 1, 2, 3, and these are regulation. These are all human activities. And what is this purpose of having this? That consists of Maqasid al-Syariah. Having all this, Allah is very, very, very merciful to us. Merciful. He gives us very documented, preserved document. Al-Quran, his word is preserved, documented clearly. And not only that, he gave the Prophet Muhammad to practice it, to show it for you, so you to be a role model to follow. You can't say it's a concept, you can't say it's not proven to follow. Say, with all this reason behind it, these are the objective. Of course, the structure of the objective Sharia is being what it calls advocated by Imam Ghazali in 1111 or 1111. Year 1111 Masihi and also 504 Hijrah. So it's been discussed. He advocated this 5 set objective based on Quran and Sunnah, and it's been discussed until today. So this is called Maqasid al-Syariah. You can see all these things, yeah? All this what we can is, but the purpose is protection of religion, so that our religion is not being corrupted. They have some laid down principle, rules and regulation, and also protection of life. We have protection of life, all the principle, how we protect life and so on. One, you kill one person is equivalent to killing, what do you call this, whole mankind and so on. This protection of life. And then the other one is, you can see, protection of mind. You see, we have certain guideline so that our mind is not being corrupted. The most dangerous corruption which I can see is corruption of mind. You can see how the multimedia Barat, this Western world, they corrupted our Muslim mind through media. This is corruption of mind, corruption of religion, corruption of life, and this is protection of offspring. We have a special, what do you call it, rules to protect our offspring, biological offspring. That's why we forbid homosexuality, lesbian, and so on. This basically is to protect humanity, and of course, last one is protection of the wealth and resources, environment and resources. This is all consisting of this. You see, it covered everything. It's what the Declaration of United Nations 1948. Now they come out with the standard, what do you call it, development objective. You see, sustainable development objective at the 32 point, which should be achieved by nation 200. They come out with all sorts of things without looking into Islam as a whole. So, brother and sister, this is what we understand. And then I think I have another 10 minutes. You can see that if we look at, I like to translate this chart into this. Why? Reason for it, if you look at this map, yeah, you look at this map, easy for you to understand, easy for you to see the interrelation between this, easy for you to integrate it into your work process. I will tell you next lecture how these maps could integrate into the work process. Due respect, for example, in banking, in banking, they're looking into one elements, elements of that is haram and halal, okay? In terms of finance, dollars and cents. But if I went to one bank, they call it Islamic bank. I saw that the staff is wearing miniskirt. They don't have ethics into it, ethical. They don't look into the ethics of it. But these are because they forget into looking into the whole aspect of this and the purpose of the overriding objective of Sharia. And look at this. If you look at that, you can say Islamic respect. You mentioned one Chinese bank name, HL Islamic Bank, name Chinese Islamic Bank. When enter Islamic Bank, it's basically it's not Islamic. They shouldn't use Islamic anyway. So this is what happened, and we will discuss next week how this element of integration of this Sharia, Maqasid al-Syariah could be integrated in the work process. Basically, I'm specialized in management and business, that we can see how we can able to change. You can change it, giving the hospitality industry. When we change it, we don't ask government to change it. We introduce a certain Islamic standard so that the industry follow, having industry together. Okay, here we will discuss in the next chapter, in the next part 2, Sharia, Maqasid al-Syariah. Okay, meanwhile, we have 10 minutes for us to discuss, to value add to my lectures, because on this subject, we are sharing knowledge together to build the knowledge. Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Jazakallah khairan, Professor Dr. Saya. It was a very clear presentation with all the beautiful charts, systematic. I hope you will be able to share with the participant this slide, and easier for them to look the overall picture of what Maqasid Sharia is. Inshallah, we will have another 5 weeks for you to present. But today we have I give you about 2 or 3 minutes, and we have only 2 questions in the chat box. Number 1 is, dear doctor, you being in Turkey, we wish to know what are the initiative and effort taken by Turkey to Islamize the already secularized world. This number 1. Number 2, if they turn away from the law of Allah, this is from Shamui, Islam. Do they desire judgment according to the law of ignorance? But for those who have certain certainty of belief, whose judgment can be better than Allah. This is from, okay. Would you like to answer it today, or we leave it for the next class? I leave it to you, Dr. Shaya.
Okay, I just give a quick question. We have time, about 10 minutes, yeah? Okay.
No, less than that.
10 minutes, isn't it? 10 minutes. Yes.
3 to 5 minutes.
Okay. 3 to 5 minutes, very short. Okay. When I was in Turkey at that time in the 1970s and 1980s, you can even say Assalamu alaikum, isn't it? When you say Assalamu alaikum, there will be the extremists. When I say you have to take Gunaidan and so on. So this sensitivity, we should not play the sensitivity. The most important thing, when I'm a CEO there, I gave a good example in the sense that I respect them, in the sense they believe, they're ignorant, and so on. So if I have a time, even though I chair the meeting with my general manager, I will say, I'm sorry, we have to stop the meeting if you give me excuse for me to pray. You see, I have permission from them. You see, ask permission for them to pray. No, I say, oh, you must pray. No, you must ask permission. I say, sorry. So they say, oh, okay, go ahead. So I pray. I'm chairing the meeting. I go and pray. After that, I came back and after 10 minutes, I say, I'm sorry for stopping the meeting and keep all of you waiting. So this is, I respect them, even though I'm practicing Muslim. But if I have to practice it, I have tell them sorry, I have to practice it. For example, Ramadan, for example, in the meeting, because it's a culture that in Europe that you should provide drink and food and so on. You say food, lunch, and you should provide. I didn't stop that. I just say that I'm sorry, even in the meeting, please help yourself. I'm sorry, I'm Muslim, I can't, I am fasting, I cannot join you for a drink. Nah, nothing wrong. You see, by example, so they will be able to think and then slowly they will change. After that, they change. You see, after that, they never pray in my room, become a prayer room in the CO. And another aspect, on Saturday, I have still a book here with me. Yeah, this book. Every Saturday we learn this. Lawful and Prohibited in Islam by Yusuf al-Qadawi. It happened that it is in English, written in Turkey. So every Saturday, we read through what is halal and haram. It's very interesting. It's knowledgeable to them. Practice and not practice is another thing. It just matter we understand this. And alhamdulillah, this book is useful for knowledge because we just delivered the message. Allah opened their heart, not us. You see, don't criticize. If you're a good example. Okay, that I have to comment.
So thank you very much, Dr. Saya. Inshallah, we pray that you will be in good health at this age. You are still very active in the giving lecture to brothers and sisters from all over the world. Today we have about 200 over participants in the Zoom. More people are on the Facebook and YouTube because the time now is different from in Turkey, in Africa, and so on. But we have a big number of participants in this program. In the YouTube, it's about 80,000 are viewing the YouTube. So we hope that your lecture will be benefited to everybody in the whole world. Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah, we'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ouch.